All right, let's get started. Kara, are we ready? All right. Thank you all for being here. This public regular meeting of the Board of Education for June 10th, 2025 is called to order. All items being considered this evening are posted on the PPS website under the Board and Meetings tab. This meeting is also being streamed live on PPS TV Services website and on Channel 28. It will be replayed throughout the next 2 weeks. Please check the district website for replay times. Good evening, welcome. Really thank all of you for taking your time out of the day to care about public education. Before we get started, some housekeeping rules. Just want to remind everyone tonight, board members, audience, staff, that we all be respectful to each other. We are excited that you're here. We also want to make sure that if you brought signs, to keep them at chin level, just to respect the people behind you so they have a wonderful view of my face. For safety reasons, please keep the aisle clear. Spills along those areas are pretty spectacular, but also horrifying. And also just in general, please be mindful of each other in this room. All right, as we start, I am really proud to announce the first item on the agenda tonight, which is recognizing June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Portland Public Schools. Thank you. Dr. Armstrong, could you expand upon this?
Absolutely, and thank you, Chair Wong and members of the board. Pride Month is a time to recognize and honor the contributions, history, and resilience of the LGBTQIA community. It also serves as a reminder of equity, inclusion, and dignity for all students, staff, and families in our district. Here to speak on the resolution tonight is Dr. Renard Adams. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Good evening, Chair Wong, Vice Chair DePass, Board Directors, and do we not have Student Director Consavi online? Oh, okay. All that handshaking, yes, absolutely. I'm here before you tonight with a resolution honoring June as Pride Month in PPS for your consideration. Pride Month is an opportunity for us to reflect on the societal accomplishments of LGBTQ plus Americans and the diversity that spans the range of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and more. Pride is a month of inclusivity where we recognize all the colors of the rainbow. Pride Month is a time for LGBTQ plus Americans to stand and shout, "We're here." Pride Month is a time of celebration and acknowledgement. It's a reminder to LGBTQ plus students, staff, families, and community members that they are seen, that they are valued, and that they are accepted exactly as they are. Times have certainly changed since I sat before this board 1 year ago. Hateful rhetoric has increased. Violence against members of the LGBTQ plus community has increased. Discriminatory legislation has been brought forward in multiple states. In this time, in this moment, your resolve means more than ever, board directors. I say this not to cause any of us to shrink in fear, but rather to call us all to arms. Now is the time to stand up and stand together. At a time when pride flags are being legislated so they won't be recognized and flown, now is the time to raise our flags higher and wave them harder. At a time when hate speech and hateful violent acts are increasing, now is the time to check hate speech when it is spewed and to wrap our arms around our queer brothers and sisters in protection. At a time when students right here in PPS are being dead named and told that their pronouns will not be respected, the exact quote reported to me was, "Don't come in my face with this BS." Now is the time to call upon all of our staff and to insist that they respect and honor people's dignity by using their chosen names and pronouns. At a time when universities, states, and school districts are signing away their commitments to those most in need, now is the time to double down on our commitment to our LGBTQ plus students, staff, families, and community members. Yes, now is the time, not to shrink in fear, but to rise up. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. It's always the right time to be who you were born to be, out and proud. Now is the time to live louder and love harder. Now is a time to affirm our values that stand for equity, diversity, and inclusion, to stand for all the colors of the rainbow. So I'm asking each of you to stand with me and stand up for our LGBTQ plus students, staff, families, and community members. Thank you, board directors, for your consideration. Thank you for standing in solidarity in support of us, the students, staff, and community members of the LGBTQ plus community. They need you. We need you now more than ever. Thank you from all of us. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Hear, hear. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7118, resolution recognizing June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Portland Public Schools?
So moved.
Second.
Director Split moves and Director Brim Edwards seconds the adoption of Resolution 7118. Is there any board discussion?
Just that it's a happy time of year. It's also a historically, I mean, we're here because of the history of LGBTQIA2 plus history in our country, and I always look forward to the parade and all of the different bike rides and the happy and joyful parts of Pride, and it makes me proud to be in Portland during this time. Thank you.
Director Brim Edwards.
Dr. Adams, I don't know how many years it's been that you've come to read the resolution. I'm always looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to, like, what's he going to wear, too? Because you always have a special way to...
Rainbow tie, rainbow socks, rainbow pin.
I like the socks, yes. And I want to just, this is my last time that you're before me with the declaration. I want to thank you for providing representation to our students and our staff. And also this year for the call to action. I stand with you. I know this board does as well. We stand with our students and our staff in a pretty unprecedented assault against their rights. And so I just appreciate you, and I'll be an enthusiastic yes.
I'd just like to also thank the district and the opportunity to be in a district that is supportive. And look at all these nice postcards from students.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm just proud to be in a district that's standing up, and it's not easy. And as a board, we want to, but it may cause some trouble, and you all know that. And you're willing to take it. So it just makes me really proud. So thank you.
Ditto. Thank you so much, Dr. Adams. This is a new tradition for me, and I can't wait to see what tie you have on next year.
Same one.
Oh, okay.
It's my favorite, sorry.
Okay. Maybe we'll get some new accessories. But really, in all seriousness, because what I wanted to say is a little bit less light, is that, in one way, I just want to say that I am so proud of the fact that our district has a shared value around protecting all students, all staff, regardless of their gender identity, sexual orientation, et cetera. I'm glad that that is a shared value that sure seems universal, but I also want to make sure that we uphold our commitment to that in practical ways in our schools. I think I've got some nodding heads right behind you, that we have work to do to make sure that we match our values and make sure that we're consistent and that those values are felt by our students and our staff in our schools. I also just want to personally give a shout out to a 5th grader at our school. I won't say her name just in case that'd be awkward for her family, but she has organized a pride parade at our school for 4 straight years, and she's moving on to middle school this year. And last time I saw her was the day of the parade, which was on the 2nd. And she said, don't worry, I'm going to make sure that there's another 5th grader, and it'll be a tradition at our school that the 5th grade runs this pride parade at our school every year. I mean, this was just a kid's idea, something that she led for our community. And so I doubt she'll ever see this, but I just want to make sure that she knows how much it meant to me, to our community, and how I know there's kids all over our district that do things like that to increase visibility, to either be allies or to be there for themselves, to stick up for their own rights and their own respect. So shout out to her. Thanks.
As board chair, sometimes I'm actually kind of sad that I have to go last and follow up on all that. I agree with everything that's been said. Dr. Adams, I'm really thankful that you were the one that presented this again. My second time I get to see this, so thank you. I just want to say I will stand with you. I will stand with all the people who have, especially the most marginalized and vulnerable populations, that all students and all people deserve the dignity. I am committed to using the power of my office to do as much as possible to protect everyone. At the same time, it's one thing to say that you are committed to something. It's another thing to continually seek out ways to improve. And that's what I think we need to constantly do, is find ways that we can improve our practice and improve the ways that we reach out and help those who definitely need the help. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for the people in the audience for being here tonight. It does mean something when you're here and we're actually talking to not empty chairs and having public support. So thank you all for being here as well. And with that, Ms. Bradshaw, is there any public comment?
No.
What? All right. The board will now vote on Resolution 7118, resolution recognizing June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Portland Public Schools. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed?
Yes.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Resolution 7118 is approved by a vote of 7-0. Thank you all for being here. I am super happy and very proud to be part of this.
Thank you.
And may I yes. It's a little off script. I was surprised that there was no public comment, and I guess I was just curious, since it seems as if we may have students here, the sign, the message that they want to convey, if we could at least understand and see it and hear what the message is. Is that okay if they're willing and comfortable to
They
do
may
so?
be signed
Or
up
a
under student
spokesperson?
comment too.
Yes,
Oh, they are signed. Oh, there is a sign up. Okay,
in
good.
student comment, yeah.
Never mind. Sorry. That's why we follow protocol.
All right. Next up, which is a quick announcement about board leadership intent. In May of 2021, board adopted a process by which board members could be considered for board leadership positions. The resolution states that in order to be considered for a leadership position, board members must notify the board manager in writing by June 1st that they plan to run for board leadership in the July election. Then at the first board meeting in June, which is tonight, the board chair will publicly confirm board members who are interested in serving in leadership. I personally have submitted my desire for continue running as board chair to Ms. Powell, as well as Director DePass, who has also indicated that she would like to be considered for board vice chair. The board will vote on board leadership at the July 22nd board meeting, the first board meeting of the next school year. All right, next up we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Armstrong, could you take it away?
Absolutely. I think the slides are loading. Super excited to give the final superintendent report of the academic year. As that loads. Oops, sorry. Go ahead. All right, we're queued up. Thank you. So first, I want to thank the board and the Portland community for believing in Portland Public Schools and our future. And you can see just some of the signs that were captured across our district thanking voters. And just know that our commitment is to be transparent in our communications and show how the investments are at work in an annual report. So just wanted to first start off by saying thank you. Second, we had our annual Torch Awards, and we had the opportunity to celebrate 15 PPS employees who exemplify our educator essentials and core values across roles and schools. And so we say that these honorees are the soul of our system. They're equity-driven, student-centered, and service-led. And so it was really great to be gathered with them and to be reminded of the impact that is lasting and how it lights the way. And so for those of you that were able to join, thank you, and just super excited about that. Sorry. Slides are moving a little bit slower. Graduations, how exciting. We had the opportunity to have 11 schools graduate. And over the last week, over 5 days, 11 graduations. And so my new tradition is to take a picture with the last person walking across the stage, which was exciting to be there at all of them, and a reminder of what it means to hit a major milestone. And so that's captured in moments. Let's see. Sorry, I have a lot of celebration, so it's going to be a minute. I want to give a huge shout out to our 2 PPS educators who were honored as On Point 2025 Educators of the Year. We have a social worker at Marysville Elementary and a 3rd grade teacher at Fabian. And so super excited for them to be recognized, and some pretty awesome prizes with, I think, rent or mortgage paid for a year. Who wouldn't want that? So that's super exciting. And then also from Lincoln High School, we had 2 students who were awarded the National Merit Scholarship. And I think what's important to note is that there were 15,000 finalists for this award. And having 2 of them at Lincoln High School is definitely an honor for our district and a shining spot. So super excited to lift that up. Then also our band, listen, let me tell you, Portland Public Schools, being in public schools is where it's at. We have amazing bands. Had a chance to see them at the Rose Parade, a couple of them. And then we had a jazz band sweep at the OMEA. And so let me just share out. First place was Grant High School, as you can see up there. Second place, Roosevelt. Third place, Cleveland. And then you can see pictured our 3 band directors. So it's kind of nice to have a state sweep representing for Portland. The Youth Empowerment Summit. So this was a first annual, because our belief is that it will be an annual event. It was a day of leadership, purpose, and student voice, where nearly 200 students from across the district gathered, attended workshops, and it was led by 8 community leaders on topics like self-respect, entrepreneurship, and leadership. The summit was opened by Mayor Keith Wilson and featured a session with DJ OG1, the official DJ of the Trailblazers. And just a huge thank you to Ronnie, Mustafa, Temp, and Brandon for bringing this powerful event to life. I look forward to this being an annual thing, and I hope that next year you all will have the opportunity to join in and see all of the wonderful learning that happened. So Royal Rosarians, I guess I should say that I'm now known as Dame Kimberly Armstrong. I had the opportunity to have an honorary knighting alongside Dame Julia Brim Edwards, and Knight, which is, of course, our Oregon State Teacher of the Year, Brian Butcher. And so super excited for that event. We had our outgoing queen, who was from Jefferson High School, to our incoming queen of Rosarian, which is a Lincoln High School student, Ava. So really excited to share that news. Just a quick little video on how we're lifting literacy. I committed to bring forth an update, though the literacy campaign ended. We're still leaning into lifting literacy, and so there's a quick little video I'd love for you to see.
Darn it, I'm gonna have to exit out and go back into the thing to make it the
Okay.
sound. It's not running through the system, so apologies.
Okay, no worries. It's worth the 1 minute.
I wrote it when I was in kindergarten.
The school has a partnership with KS MoCA through Portland State University. One of the teachers with KS MoCA, she and I have partnered to develop this dream publishing.
I put in my Peach Boy book. At the end, they became friends with the monsters.
When kids are reluctant to read or reading is hard, writing can be a good springboard to become more and more interested in literacy, and knowing that literacy is not just reading a chapter book from front to back, but what different types of literacy can we expose the kids to.
Thank you. And then the last slide is just an update on our PEC relocation. And so I take that over to you all. Thank you for your patience. Told you lots of things to celebrate and acknowledge as we close down this academic year. So just really quickly, we're in phase 2 of the PEC relocation. And so we're focused on identifying need and evaluating conditions for the new location option. As you know, we have listening sessions launched. As a matter of fact, we have a couple happening tomorrow. And we are building out multiple channels of communications where there will be a clear cadence of updates that our staff will be have access to. Also, there'll be an open channel for feedback and communications and questions. Staff will be able to access that through QR codes. There'll also be some debriefing and consensus building. So we'll reflect on what surfaced with staff and then be able to align on values, and then have a board briefing and an executive session where we'll be able to share more information on what has come up for folks. So, as always, appreciate you all. Together we rise. You can follow along on social media of all the great work that is happening in Portland Public Schools. Thank you. Yes,
I had a quick question.
sure.
When you said by the end of the year, did you mean the end of the calendar year or the end of the school year? I'm just wondering if I'm gonna be there for that, or if that's,
Yeah, sorry. Let me
you had
pull
this,
that
the
back
slide
up.
was just, yeah, just so.
It's okay. Pull it back up. Yeah, it's the end of the year, not the academic year.
Okay, end of the
Yes.
year. So I just also wanted to clarify that next meeting, we're having the staffing plan,
The,
which I think we agreed to.
the staffing plan for the
There was,
relocation.
I forget the exact name of it. Yeah,
Yeah, that update will be included, yes.
at the next meeting.
Yes,
Facebook.
at the
Yeah.
next meeting, yeah.
Great.
Great, thank you.
I did not understand the exchange where you guys were going, yeah, that thing, blah, blah, blah.
It was the up,
Mind meld.
yeah.
I knew what I was thinking about. It's,
It
Only
came
2
out of
years.
the District Council of Unions opportunity and wanting to be part of the discussion, and the
Right.
decision was we'd have something on the, at the.
Like an engagement strategy for them.
Yeah, thank you. That's
Is that what
what,
we called it? Okay, great.
This update does show what that engagement strategy for the relocation is, and so we can certainly provide more information at a later meeting, but this was to share out, as indicated at the last meeting, an update on the relocation. But Chief Kafori may want to share more.
Thank you. Deborah Kafori, Chief of Staff. The amendment that Director Wong added to, or the suggestion that he asked for at the, if it wasn't the last one, it was the one before board meeting, was to have an update before June 14th. And the update that Superintendent gave tonight is a encapsulation of that. If you would like a longer document, we're happy to share that.
I guess what I,
And we're meeting with, we have a meeting with, superintendent's meeting with the DCU representatives on Friday afternoon. It's part of our monthly engagement series.
I think it was useful to get that tonight, but I think the expectation I had would not be that we'd get something in advance of what it was, and that we'd have an opportunity to have a discussion about it. And this wasn't.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I mean, it seemed like it was going to be an agenda item, is how it got described.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an update on the feedback process for the search. But yeah, we can have a discussion about it in terms of how much depth we want to provide.
So then, just for clarity, because we have the timeline built and we're starting the series of discussion and engagement, and so the item in 2 weeks would be more on what that plan looks like, or the results of the feedback or the information that we're gathering, just to be clear.
Both?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
both,
it
right?
was to be your engagement plan. It just seems like we should let the employees know that we're having, like, whatever the meeting is, just in the spirit of continuing to be.
Yeah, and it also doesn't have to be finalized by that date. I mean,
No.
this is an ongoing
Yeah.
process, so whatever updates that can be provided as we're going about this is adequate, and in terms of like considering how we're moving forward and things like that. So I think it can be an ongoing thing as well. I think the ask was for the 24th for an update on both the feedback process and what has been done so far. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, the engagement has already begun. And in fact, tomorrow there are 2 listening sessions here in this building with staff. I don't have my calendar in front of me. There's another one scheduled as well. There's also an email account that's been set up. There's a QR code if people want to send their thoughts, their suggestions, their hopes and dreams for the future anonymously as well. So there's really a multi-tiered structure moving forward. And I think the point of tonight was to get out ahead of it, because they are starting tomorrow. So waiting until the 24th to announce to our staff here that we're engaging them after we've already been engaged seemed a little late.
And I would say that's all fine to gauge it, but it seemed like the way we were talking about it was going to be an agenda item, and then we'd get some materials in advance that we could ask about it, versus just being a cursory, like, here's what's happening.
Okay, we'll be in discussion about the most appropriate format for that. Thank you.
The only thing I'll add is, because it was something that I asked for, and I think you're already on top of it, so no big deal, but when you do share, because I think what we were thinking was not this like a plan for this initial engagement, but really like, how are you going to engage in that final decision-making process and make sure staff and union voices are being heard. And so the thing that I think I also asked for, and I think you're on top of it, was talking to labor about how they're going to be engaged throughout the process. So when you're having those meetings and the briefings, like, I really hope you'll ask not just what do you think right now, but like, how do you want to be engaged in this process over the course of now till the time when we make a decision. So I'll just put a little plug into something that, like, I remember talking about that night that I think would be important to include in any future update, is like, what did labor and staff say they want as far as like how they're going to be consulted going forward in the process. Does that make sense? Maybe not.
Yeah, I will say this is a little different than I interpreted from the last meeting, so I appreciate you giving us additional direction, because this is not, more conversations always better. So I appreciate having further direction, and feel free to reach out as well if you have other thoughts moving forward that are not being incorporated.
Yeah, I just really appreciate you being all over having those communications now. Thank you.
Yep.
I guess I would also, just to put a fine point on it, expect that we would tell our labor partners, like, there's going to be an update at the meeting on the engagement plan. Materials are going to be available in advance, and so if they have some comment on it that they want to share, then they have the opportunity to do that. Again, just otherwise it seems like, hey, we didn't even know it was going to be on the agenda, and it's already happened and it's over. So I would just be very deliberate, because that was part of what happened the last time, is they felt like it was happening to them without them at least knowing what was going to be happening.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that. Yes, we'll keep working on this to figure out the best format. Next up, we have general public comment, or can we just kind of combine them both? Do we start with student comments, correct? Okay. Next up, we have student comments.
Is there an issue?
Before we begin, just kind of review general guidelines for public comments. So this applies to if you're doing a general public comment as well. Please understand, thank you for coming out here. Your voices, especially from our students, really helps improve our work, and we really value hearing from you. Our board office may follow up if there's any board-related issues that's raised during public testimony. We request that complaints about individual employees be directed to the superintendent's office as a personnel matter. I will remind PPS staff who are giving public comment that they may not provide testimony about students that could violate confidentiality protections under FERPA. This includes testimony using information that could identify students, especially in their school community by use of direct or indirect linkages such as school grade, special education, or other status. For materials you would like the board to receive, handouts, pictures, etc., please don't come to the dais. Please hand them over to our board manager, Ms. Bradshaw over there, and she will distribute them to us. If you have any additional materials that you would like to provide the board or superintendent, we ask that you email them to public comment, all one word, at pps.net. Please make sure that when you begin your comment that you clearly state your name and spell your last name. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And then when the yellow light goes off up there, that means you have 30 seconds to wrap up your comment. Let's start with our students. Ms. Bradshaw, who do we have signed up?
We have Scar Dickerson, Envy Nelson, and Lydia Cooley.
Hi, I'm Scar Dickerson. That's Dickerson. I'm a transgender boy. I'm the president of PRISM, which is our LGBTQ club at Franklin High School. I just finished my freshman year there. Overall, it was really incredible. I had a lot of fun and made a lot of great friends. But the thing that was really hard for me this year was our school's real lack of gender-neutral bathrooms. There are 3 in our main building, excluding dressing rooms, and there's only 1 in the gym building. That is not enough for like 1,800 students. Like most freshmen, I'm taking gym class. Overall, I really like the class. I had an extra elective next year and was considering doing it, but really the only reason I didn't is that I hate changing for gym class. I don't presently feel comfortable in either gendered bathroom, and especially not in locker rooms. To me, it could be a bit of a safety issue. There's only 1 gender-neutral bathroom in the gym building, like I said, which I have to share with multiple other students, which means I have to leave class early just to change. And that's just when the bathroom is open. Multiple weeks this year, it's been closed due to vandalism, so I've had nowhere to go. My teacher is luckily pretty great and would unlock the staff bathroom for me to use, but that really shouldn't have to happen. I feel like there should have been somewhere better for me to go to begin with. I didn't want to have to deal with this again, so I'm not taking the class next year. Not only should something like a place to change be guaranteed, but not having it is, and it's stopping me from taking a class next year. It's also been taking a lot of time out of my educational day. By my own count, we've had like 87 A days this year. Not sure that number is exactly correct, but assuming it is, I leave class 12 minutes early each day, which means I have spent over 17 hours this year just waiting for the bathroom to change for gym class when I should have been in class. And that is just 1 class. It's not including how I was 10 minutes late to math on Friday, or how 1 inquiry class I sat there for half an hour. And because somebody was vaping in the bathroom, which was the only place I felt safe. I know I'm not the only student with these issues. I don't know too much about this. I believe our club advisor is going to talk more about it, but we were promised money to improve our bathroom situation, but have not heard of any plans to actually do so. So I'm just coming back here to say this is still a really real issue, and it's still something we face every day.
My name is Lydia Cooley, Cooley. I am also a freshman at Franklin High School, but I am non-binary, and we have gendered bathrooms, girl and boy. See, I am not a girl or a boy. Where do I use the bathroom? Well, we have 3 or 4 not gender-neutral bathrooms, but we have a really big school. I have a lot of classes in a lot of different places. I have one class that is in the farthest wing of the school because it's acting, and so they gotta be all the way over there by the theater. Oftentimes, the bathrooms there have to be closed because of safety and stuff. It's complicated. So I have to walk very far. It will take me out of class for over 10 minutes at a time to go use the bathroom, which is just extremely unreasonable. And oftentimes the gender-neutral bathrooms are closed because people graffiti them. Yeah. Like also same as him. Gym class is also like I don't want to change in the girls' locker room. I do because I have I don't want to wait in the line for the gender neutral bathroom. But I shouldn't have to wait. And wait, at the beginning of the school year last August, we were allowed to only wear just our gym shirts. But at the start of the last semester, my gym teacher changed it and was like, you have to change your pants now too. And that was really stressful for me. I am not scared easily, but I cried over that. I don't have that a lot, but that was terrible. Because I don't want to change my clothes. Oftentimes when I'm scheduling my doctor's appointments, I will choose it on the days during PE class so I don't have to change my clothes. Which is not something I should feel and not something I should have to try to do. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you both for your testimony.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any other students?
Was NB Nelson here? No.
Okay. Well, thank you for not only just taking the time out of your day, but also shedding light on this issue. And I know it takes a lot of courage to come up here and speak. So thank you very much. Next, we have our regular public comment.
Ellen Whatmore, Vika Sabi, Ted Morgan.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Watmore, Whatmore. I use she, her pronouns. I am a teacher at Franklin High School, and this is my friend and colleague.
Hi, my name is Charlie Dishman, and last name is Dishman, and I'm the other advisor for our GSA group.
So we advise PRISM, Franklin's GSA Club, and in the spirit of Pride Month, I want to remind everyone that according to this evening's adopted resolution, the Portland Public Schools Board of Education reaffirms its commitment to policies and practices that ensure equity, safety, and belonging for LGBTQ+ individuals throughout our schools and the wider community. Moreover, in last year's resolution, you resolved to continue to improve the support of our LGBTQ community through a number of actions, including a restroom equity plan to incorporate gender-neutral restrooms in modernized school buildings. 1 year ago, almost to the day, my colleagues, Charlie and Yoshio Drescher, appeared before you to give public comment on the status of gender-inclusive bathrooms at Franklin High School. They shared that our campus lacks sufficient gender-neutral bathrooms and that many of our transgender, non-binary, and gender-expansive students feel uncomfortable with our current facilities. They also explained that since Franklin's modernization occurred right before the creation of PPS's restroom equity plan, our campus doesn't have the same number of single-stall, gender-neutral facilities as other PPS high schools. In response, former Director Andrew Scott said, and I quote, "I would love the Facilities and Operations Committee to take this up and to figure out what is our plan for schools that were built prior to that policy, and what's our timeline for making those changes." Co-chair Michelle DePass said, "We should put this directly to the Facilities Committee, and we should make a plan for implementing the retrofits that are needed." Director Gary Holland said, "I'm going to talk with Dan. I believe this issue is actually on our next bond piece, but I will definitely check with Dan to make sure of that." And Chair Eddie Wong said, "Being the Facilities Committee, I can request that we talk about this and bring it up. Your responses last year were promising, but we have not seen any change." Did the Facilities and Operations Committee take this up? Was a plan made for implementing the necessary retrofits? Did anyone talk to Dan? On May 20th, Portland voters passed a $1.83 billion construction bond, the largest such school bond in Oregon history. Was this issue on that bond? If so, we haven't seen any evidence. You just heard directly from Franklin students personally impacted by this issue. What can you tell them about the future of, quote, equity, safety, and belonging for LGBTQ+ individuals that you reaffirmed earlier this evening? What do we need to do so that we're not coming back again a year from now with the same request?
And we are members of the Portland Raging Grannies. We support peace, social justice, human rights, and environmental protection through protest, song, and performance. Thank you so much for your action tonight, recognizing June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the Portland Public Schools. We're here to provide testimony in support of the Franklin High School GSA, whose members are requesting that the district provide sufficient gender-neutral bathrooms at Franklin High School. We will sing our testimony.
Hear them, Franklin High, listen to their plea. They need safe restrooms for all, they just wanna pee. There are not enough toilets for them all. Do you meet the UBC? Please add some restroom stalls. They don't want the moon, just their privacy. LGBTQIA, they just wanna pee. Life is hard enough without this problem too. Gender-neutral restrooms, please, they just wanna poo. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I just want to say I've been on the board 12 years, and this is my second to last meeting, and I would say, like, I think I've seen it all, but I hadn't. So thank you.
Next up, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Savitsky, and I am a parent of 3 children enrolled in the Russian immersion program. I am here tonight to express serious concerns on behalf of the RI families. Since December, our children have been left without a Russian teacher at Lane Middle School. Despite repeated pleas from parents, Principal L. Yusuf responded with silence, vague explanations, and offered no clear or timely plan to resolve the situation. Students watched videos and completed worksheets, thus leading to academic setbacks and behavioral challenges. Principal Yusuf does not support the program. When a parent raised concerns, she advised, maybe you should just leave the program. This shows a clear bias against our community. After contacting the superintendent, we had a meeting on May 7th where Dr. Hristic and DLI Assistant Director Munoz acknowledged communication failures and promised action. Yet the teaching position wasn't posted until May 23rd and meeting notes were never shared. We still have no teacher. This situation reflects the district's tendency to undersupport the RI program. The lack of adequate Russian teaching material and restrictive enrollment policies, such as caps on kindergarten admission, are part of a systemic failure by PPS to recognize and support Slavic communities as a distinct and underserved group. Although PSU conducted research in 2014 identifying Slavic people as people of color, PPS has not reflected this understanding in its policies. As taxpayers of this district, we respectfully demand the following. Number one, recognition and inclusion. The district must formally recognize Russian-speaking students and families as people of color and reflect this in all documentation, data collection, and equity-related decisions. Number two, transparency in hiring. Form a hiring committee that includes parents and RI teachers to ensure the process is transparent. The job posting should explicitly mention the pathway to licensure through the PSU Bilingual Teacher Pathway Program to encourage candidates. Number three, leadership accountability. Remove Principal El Yusuf from her current position or relocate the Russian immersion program to a school where administrators understand and value bilingual education. And number four, replace the DLI administration due to their lack of effective support for the RI program and inadequate understanding of the needs of linguistically and culturally diverse students. Our children deserve better. We ask that you treat this matter with urgency and seriousness it requires. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Again, thank you all for taking time of your day to provide public comment. It's always very helpful to hear. Next up, I also want to invite John Coney, who is the high school pass coordinator for TriMet, who has requested some time tonight to highlight the summer pass program. Welcome, Mr. Coney.
Superintendent Armstrong and members of the Portland School Board. Again, my name is John Coney. I am the high school pass coordinator from TriMet. And I was here a couple of years ago when we first launched this summer pass program that we have. And I know there's been a lot of changes in leadership here, so I wanted to just give you a quick download on the program for this year and where we are with it. Some of you might, I don't know if you've seen these, are promotional and informational posters that we produce. We have these in English and Spanish at all of our high schools. TriMet uses state grant funding from transportation packages that have been passed by the Oregon legislature to provide 30,000 youth summer passes across the entire region. So that includes Forest Grove out west, Beaverton, Hillsboro, Reynolds to our east, Park Rose, that kind of thing. Of the 30,000, we have been distributing about 10,000 alone to PPS. No big surprise, where the transportation core is here and the largest student population. And I think probably, as you know, all PPS high school students have a transit hot pass embedded in their student ID card. That is for the school year. Those will continue to work for about another week or 10 days after the school year ends, and then that tariff will come off of those cards. So students should use their free summer passes. The passes themselves, it's actually a little paper hop ticket in a protective sleeve here. So we did distribution primarily to all the Portland high schools. This program, however, is the rising 8th graders. So those current 8th graders who are, we consider them now in high school, as well as graduating seniors. So it really kind of covers 5 grades. If for any students in the kind of under the umbrella of the multiple pathways to graduation who might be 19, 20, or 21 years old, as long as they are working on a high school diploma or a GED, they're eligible to have this as well. I work directly with Patty French in multiple pathways to make sure that all those program sites are covered, and Patty does the outreach to all those program sites and those communities to make sure they have passes. We also work directly. I work directly with Dave Holm, who's the principal of the Summer Scholars Program, so to get passes there. That's just a quick overview of everything. If any of you has more questions about this or anything, Roseanne Powell has my contact information, and I'm available as a resource. And but we just want to thank PPS for being a great partner with TriMet. We want to get young people riding over the summer. It's a great life practice. The passes is unlimited use from June 1st until August 31st. So again, more questions, I'll be glad to follow up with any of you later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we specifically wanted Mr. Coney to be able to present tonight to offer as a PSA to any upcoming and current high school students so they can continue to travel this summer. We can always point them to either whatever this minute of this YouTube video will be for this information, or, as you know, contact our board manager as well. Ms. Bradshaw, do we have any union partners signed up for tonight?
We have the Portland Association of Teachers.
That was it. Yeah. Okay, no other union partners today? All right, next up we have reports from our board committees and board members. You have one? All right, thank you, Director Sullivan.
The Audit Committee's next meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 23rd. To accommodate scheduling in the very busy month of June, the meeting will be virtual and is scheduled to begin at 11 a.m. The purpose of this meeting is to receive the annual bond performance audit, Year 6 report from our contracted bond auditors. With the community's approval of the 2025 bond package in the May elections, by the way, thank you again, everybody, for voting for that bond. It is important that we, the PPS board, provide transparency, accountability, and oversight of our bond program to retain our community's support. One of several ways we're able to do this is by obtaining annual bond performance audits. The Audit Committee is looking forward to this presentation, as I said, at 11 a.m. on Monday, June 23rd, and this is virtual. Lastly, I acknowledge that bond performance audits are of interest to all of us board members, and I hope non-Audit Committee members of the board know that you're also welcome to attend this meeting. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Go for it.
I was just going to say that the policy committee was supposed to meet yesterday, and we still have one last thing there. So hopefully we'll get it rescheduled and pop it out so it can be on its way. And then we have two other policies that are going to be considered tonight, and I think the pipeline will be empty for now.
Awesome, thank you. Speaking of which, next item on the agenda is the Ethics and Conflicts of Interest Policy 5.10.066-P. Director Bim Edwards, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes. Update? Did you? Yeah, when I'm done.
I'll come back to it.
Okay. Let's see. So the second reading of the Ethics and Conflicts of Interest Policy. This was on the agenda, I think, over a month and a half ago, but we got involved in a very long, late meeting, so we deferred to a future meeting, and tonight's tonight. So we currently have a policy 5.10.066, the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Policy. That lays out sort of a framework for staff, board members of the district. And so we have an amendment that is being added that essentially creates a cooling off period between board service and seeking or accepting employment with PPS. And the basic premise is that while an individual is serving on the board, they will not seek an employment at the district as they have an oversight evaluatory role in relation to the superintendent. And conversely, the superintendent's staff should not offer a position to a sitting board member, given a sitting board member exercises budgetary authority and oversight over all departments in the district. As part of the process, Director Wong raised a very practical issue for those who have worked in schools in the past, and that essentially that the issue of board members, if they were cycling off the board, they waited for a school-based job to the end of their board term. It's actually after the district school-based hiring process. So Director Wong suggested some language for a school-based exception, which has been included. There was no formal comment provided, although informally there was a fair amount of, we're surprised that isn't already not allowed. And that's it.
All right. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7104, resolution to adopt revised ethics and conflict of interest policy 5.10.066-P?
So moved.
Second.
Director DePass moves and Director Brim Edwards seconds adoption of Resolution 7104. Board discussion. I do have. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think with the amendment, I can support it. I know that it's to try to protect us against any problem that I don't really see them happening, but just in case. So, yeah, I'm okay with it.
I can say the same. I had questions about what we were trying to solve for, considering that we already had a policy that allows for that board members cannot also work for the district, but I'm okay passing it as is with the amended language.
I guess I'll go. I have more problems with this. Let me tell you a story. It's gonna be a series of questions. The point of this series of questions is to highlight some problems. So this says the policy of the new amendment says to you that the last 6 months of the board member's term, exceptions can be granted, and then you have to notify the board, and the board has to approve it. So let's do a stress test on it, like a hypothetical scenario, right? Majority of our employees are teachers. Teachers are not hired by the superintendent. They're hired by the principal and the hiring staff at that school. So it's already more than once removed. The board only has 2 employees, which is the superintendent and our internal auditor, right? And so decisions made to be hired is not with the superintendent. It's with principals. So my issue is this. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, we have a teacher that wanted to run for the board and run for the board. Unfortunately, as you know, this is an unpaid volunteer position. Let's say in year 2 of their term, they can no longer afford to continue on the board. So what does that mean? So again, a series of questions just to highlight some issues I have with this. Do they have to announce that they're going to resign in 6 months before they can notify the board that they intend to apply for employment? Okay, so let's just say now they have to notify it. I'm going to resign in 6 months because I want to apply to a position at Franklin High School. Now we have a whole series of other issues. As you know, when you seek employment, it's typically a private affair, right? You have some sort of privacy because there's issues that come up. I know, for example, 20 years ago, I applied to a position and I was one of 2 finalists. And the other person got the job because they had a little bit more experience than I. I only taught like 3-4 years, so I was pretty new. But now I got rejected from that. I'm just scenario here. I just publicly announced I'm going to apply to a job. Everyone knows I'm going to apply to a job. Now everyone knows I got rejected from this job, right? And so now I have a black mark on my name. I mean, no one's going to, we live in a headline society. We don't look in the details like, oh yeah, that person may have been one of 2 finalists. What's going to happen is, and this is very real, this person might want to apply to Benson. And guess what? They know that Franklin rejected them. They're not going to look into why, so now they're going to reject them too. So now we basically committed someone with potentially a black mark that, oh, this person got rejected, I'm going to reject them too. And so now something that is immensely private, like in terms of like applying to jobs, is now a very public affair. Not only that, but there's unintended consequences of what this means as like, hey, here's this public figure who's applying to our job, and now everyone knows about it. There's now some undue pressure that could also be created from that. And what if they don't get the job? I mean, they have an option of going out of district, sure, but now do they have to rescind their resignation statement? Or maybe it took them more than 6 months to find employment. So these are some issues I have. I think a better policy, again, I am not opposed to the general spirit of this policy, but I think a better policy would just be something as simple as that if a board member wishes to apply for employment at the district, they need to notify it publicly. And that's it. Just notify their intent to publicly. And that way, if there is some kind of issue going on and people want to look into it, they can look into it. But overwhelmingly, it can keep, unless there's real issues that are actually being raised, it will at least afford them some sort of privacy and dignity in terms of their potential failure in finding a job. So anyways, these are examples of why I think I really am pushing that this policy be simplified in a way that can, again, allow for some of these unintended consequences to kind of be more flexible and cleaned up a little bit. So those are my issues with this.
Yeah, so I'll just say the language relating to a school board's member, I believe you provided. So is it
highly edited, yeah.
And I'm a bit disappointed that we've had several policy committee meetings and board meetings. I wish you would have raised it earlier because we could have done it.
Sorry,
Do you have it? How would you make that simpler?
Like I said, I think the policy should just be something that just says that. Because, okay, so here's the thing. We already have a policy that bars current board members from being employed in the district.
Right.
Right. And so that part's taken care of. So I think a simpler policy would just be that if a board member wishes to apply to a position in the district, they have to signify their intent publicly.
Oh, I don't get how that. Well, first of all, it doesn't remove the undue influence of your applying for a position at the district. And again, tonight's a case in point. We're going to be voting on the superintendent's evaluation, right? And we'll be voting on the superintendent's pay, right? So announcing that you intend to apply for a job does not remove a conflict.
I have a question. Does it matter on the timing of this announcement? Because maybe if the superintendent's already had an evaluation, then it removes the burden of it separates the superintendent's evaluation from the intent of a board member. And I guess back to my original point, I didn't think this was necessary, was I wondered how often this had happened and what we were solving for. I didn't know if it had ever happened. If we're actually solving for something that's a problem. And it looks like Gary has his, Director Hollins has his hand up, but that was my question. Okay. Is this solving for a problem that we have?
As I've said previously and sent around the article, this was raised earlier by a board member who came back and worked for the district after the superintendent had received a raise, and a special position was created. And I think I sent you that article. So has it ever happened? And I think, again, the spirit of ethics rules is you're not doing them after you've had a problem, but just to lay the framework. And your suggestion doesn't actually remove the issue of somebody applying for a central office job.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that. Director Hollins, I'll call you in just a sec. I just want to respond really quick. I do want to apologize that I didn't bring this up earlier because I honestly, actually the last meeting was supposed to be brought up. I just thought about it the night before. So again, that's on me. I do apologize for not bringing these things earlier. Director Hollins?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
All right. And I've said this before, when I look at number 8, I don't think it solves for what I think the intent was for because there's no way bars a board member who is not on the board anymore from gaining employment. And so I guess my question is, what is the purpose of the extra language, when even in the extra language, it doesn't bar previous board member from applying for a district position?
I'm sorry, Director Hollins, is your question what is the purpose of the additional language?
Correct.
The part that starts within the last 6 months of a board member's term, or just the current board members may not apply or accept any offer of employment?
Well, no, I understand the current board members may not apply for or accept any offer or employment with the district, but whether they say they want to do something in 6 months, before 6 months or not, case in point, if a board member leaves June 30th, there is no policy, which there cannot be a policy for that non-board member to seek employment at that point.
Yeah, that language was suggested by Director.
No,
okay.
No, I get it. Whoever suggested it, I'm just saying, but there's no legal recourse to say a ex-board member after June 30th cannot apply for an employment. So to have that, it doesn't make any sense. So I would just say we just take that out and just go with the current board members may not apply for or accept any offer of employment from the district. But that's a current board member. Once they're no longer a board member, there is no policy you could have in here that will bar someone for applying for employment without some legal ramifications.
I would just chime in to say that I wouldn't support just having that. I've been pretty compelled by some of the conversation over the last couple of meetings where we've talked about this. So I want some sort of caveat. In hearing Chair Wong and the conversation tonight, I think if the goal is transparency, then I like the idea of just adding may not apply or accept any offer of employment from the district without providing notice. And I think that shining a light does provide more than we have now as far as preventing there from being that concern about undue influence, because if everybody knows that undue influence could be taking place, I think that helps to prevent it. Like, I think it's kind of like, to me, like we have, well, I can't believe I'm going to sit up and say something nice about Oregon's campaign finance system, but we have really good transparency about donations in Oregon. I'm going to say it's easy to search. I feel like anybody who's listening to me and regularly uses OrStar, it's actually pretty hard to search, but it's all there. You can find it. That transparency makes it so that if somebody wants to drop $2 million on a campaign, we all know that, and we all have thoughts about that. And it prevents, in my opinion, some of the unsavory things that can come of that sort of dynamic being in the shadows, right? So it sounds like something like that would be supported broadly, because for me, I want there to be some sort of exit door from this may not apply for or accept any offer from the district. And I think it's in part because, one, these are volunteer positions. Two, I want to encourage teachers and even administrators from serving on the school board. I think they'd make excellent school board members. They already do. It's me that I'm talking about, not you. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But I think it helps having educator voices. And I want to keep that coming. But then, what if life circumstances change and somebody needs to go back to work for financial reasons and they're taking a leave? So I want there to be some sort of exit ramp. So if we don't like this exit ramp, then I'd like to suggest that we provide a different one that allows for it to not be unilateral and there to be an ability for somebody excellent to apply and move into a job at our district. I want the best person for the job, not the person that, not having the best person be disqualified out of pocket. So
I'm glad you
my other question would be, how do we legally enforce that? And when we are talking about this exit ramp, or when we're talking about this policy in whatever form it takes, I would love to know legally, how is that enforceable when the person or board member is no longer a board member of PPS. So that way, and the reason why I'm asking that too, because I want to make sure that we're not doing something that we can be legally on the hook for as well.
I'll call him Director Bim, but just really quick, I think part of the enforcement is that this enforces staff and district employees not to hire. I think that's where the enforcement is. It's not on future board. I mean, future ex-board members can apply to whatever they want, but it limits staff's ability to hire them.
Current.
I mean, I
Current
have a
laws.
question then.
My bad.
Legally, how can that be challenged? If legally that could be challenged, do we want to put the district at risk for a lawsuit because they're saying, well, I didn't get hired because I was a past board member?
Thank you.
Whether it's 6 months or whether it's 2 years or 3 years down the road.
Director Bibb-Edwards.
So what I would say is it's probably enforced like everything else in our ethics policy, that if it's not in law, it's our policy. I think board members, when they agree to sign up, they agree to abide by the policies of the district. We're district leaders, and we expect our students and staff to follow policies, so board members should as well. So that's how we enforce a lot of the other ones, since we don't have a censure or reprimand. But
how do you follow policy if you're no longer a board member? Those policies don't apply to you at that point.
But if you're no longer a board member, then this wouldn't apply to you anyway, because it only applies to current board members.
Exactly.
So I'm going to offer a change which I think addresses the issue or the example that Director Wong just raised, and it's just basically would be putting a period after at the end, creating the end of the sentence after the word board leadership. So it would say, to seek an exemption, a board member must send a communication to board members stating their intent to potentially pursue school-based employment with the district and board leadership. So it's a statement of intent, but you're not getting approval.
You wouldn't have to go on the record at an agenda,
and have it approved. And
have it approved as a board meeting item. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I was just questioning what it would change.
And then, okay, then so just one other thing, we just,
And so just so I'm clear, and this is so if a current board member decides that they want to be an employee while they're a current board member, this would be that policy for them.
This is if you're seeking a school-based employment. So it wouldn't be like, I think I want a central office job. This is if you are seeking school-based employment, and the reason why this is different than a central office job when you would need to wait till after you're done with your employment is that school-based employment, the hiring cycle doesn't coincide with the end of a board member's term.
Yeah, typically the hiring cycles majority of hiring happens January through April. And so if a board member has to wait until June to apply for a school-based site, that means they would have to wait an additional year, which is a huge burden, especially if their reasons for doing so are financial.
Right.
And yeah, I thank you for addressing that, Director Bibb-Edwards. I want to reiterate that I am supportive with the spirit of this policy, although I like the direction that your suggestions for edits. I do think I need a little bit more time to think about it.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we send it back to the policy committee, work at the details, and socialize it again? I mean, that's the way we can move it back and work on it in committee.
Yeah, I agree.
So ideally, I'd like to get this over the finish line at the next committee meeting. I don't think I can send around tomorrow morning. And I'd ask this in fairness, because when it was supposed to be on the agenda over a month ago, I was fine with it moving to a later date. And then, again, it's no problem to raise it tonight. We can fix it, but I'd rather not have that be the reason why we don't get it, because it could have been across the finish line a month ago, or we'd be working on the second time. So I think I have a pretty simple edit that I will circulate. And what I would ask is if people have issues with it, to let me know.
Are we moving this back to the policy committee?
Sure. That looks like the general counsel wants to say
I'm
something.
trying to understand, are you, excuse, I'm concerned about that email trail, yes.
Yeah, so I'll just state that what I'm going to send out, so it's in a public meeting, and by the end of the meeting, actually by the end of the meeting, I will ask to have it posted so everybody has it, okay? I mean, it can be posted, and so we're in a public meeting.
Sure, I just wanted to clarify how, the steps that you were proposing after that, because perhaps I misunderstood, it would not be appropriate to have that conducted by email.
I can send it. I can send something out. It's not a serial meeting to send something out.
Yes, I misunderstood. If all you're doing is sending it out, I have no concern. I understood you were soliciting conversation.
Well, if somebody has, like, just like anything else, when somebody sends something out, people can send something back separately, right?
But then
I will.
Apply to one.
We're going to try and have another policy committee meeting, but I'm going to send it out and post it tonight because, again, there's no reason to wait for a policy meeting when I've got the language right here.
So, except that we might want to weigh in on some of the details, which I thought that was a friendly suggestion to move it back to the policy committee.
Yeah. So okay, let me just reiterate the steps really quick. Director Britton Edwards has ideas for changes in a more refined policy. We will be motioning, hopefully, pending the vote, motioning and hopefully voting to move, or maybe not, sorry, wrong word. Motioning and moving this back to the policy committee, voting on that. And then because you sent it out earlier, because you can send this out tonight or tomorrow, people have more time to think about this. And so when we get to the policy committee, we can get to business and move it out ASAP, correct?
And I would just say, as a courtesy, when something's before the board multiple times, it's a courtesy to other board members. If you have other things up, to raise issues that you have versus delaying the process. Or
no,
I'll send this around tonight, and so I'm gonna move that we send it back to committee, a date that's not yet been set, and I will send around the revised language, which I think addresses the issue that wrong public body, that Chair Wong raised.
And I also just want to publicly and personally apologize for not raising this earlier. This is my fault, and I completely overlooked it. So I apologize, and I'll be as supportive as I can be in terms of this next move. So thank you.
Do we need to second her motion?
Is that a formal motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I can second it.
All right.
And I'll also commit, along with something else coming out of policy committee, to steward it as needed.
Before the 24th, because there's no reason that a policy that's been sitting out there for 3 months that's literally 2 paragraphs.
But I think we want to make sure that we have some level of consensus, though, amongst at least the people on the policy committee before we bring it to the full board. And we haven't been able to agree on it, which is why it's kind of being reworked.
It's been on the agenda every policy committee meeting we've had, and nobody has said anything. So
we've gone back and forth about whether to refer it to the full board or not.
We referred it to the full board, and we had a first reading. This is the second reading. So the committee had a meeting. We recommended it to the board for first reading. We had a first reading, and this is to be the second reading. So it's not that, and it's been on the committee agenda for we always carry anything that's out for public comment, which has been for several months.
Thank you. And we'll take full responsibility. I overlooked it, and I didn't bring up these issues earlier, and that's my fault. So I apologize. All right, we will now be voting on the motion to move the policy back to policy committee for revision. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed? Abstentions?
I was a yes. I couldn't get my mute off fast enough.
All right, thank you. All right, the conflict of interest policy 5.10.066-P is moved back to policy committee by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. I'll do what I can to help, okay? Next up, we have the second reading of the student representative and district student council policy. Very sad that Student Representative Jay Consavi cannot be here tonight. This is part of his work. Director Ben Edwards, could you please introduce 1.20.012-P student representative and student district council policy?
Thank you, Chair Wong. So we have a student representative and district student council policy that was drafted several years ago. The district student council and student representative Consavi asked if we could make two changes. The two changes are that we would go from having a representative and an alternate to going to two representatives. So there's no alternate, there's two representatives. And then the other piece was changing the threshold for elective credit. So students who serve on the district student council have a second credit, can get an elective credit, and this is just moving the attendance requirement from 90 to 80%. The senior director of high school core academics has reviewed and expressed no concerns. As you might note, that we ask, and I'll just say we ask for expedited consideration so that we could get through this before student representative, as a courtesy to him, that we get this through before his tenure was over, and we've had no public comment to the contrary, and we recommended sending approval from the committee.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and second to adopt Resolution 7119, resolution to adopt revised student representative and district student council policy 1.20.012-P?
So moved.
Second.
Director DePass moves and Director Sullivan seconds the adoption of Resolution 7119. Board discussion.
I just want to thank Student Representative Consavi for bringing this forward. I think he approaches his work with a how can we leave it better than we found it approach as a general rule, and that's one of my codes that I live by too. So I wanted to thank him for his leadership. I also wanted to note during a public meeting that it sounds like he was the first student representative to ever attend all of the graduations. And I think that just goes to show his general above and beyond nature. So I'm glad that we'll have some legacy of such an awesome student representative in our policies should this pass, and I will leave it at that.
Ditto. Well said.
Yes, thank you. Although part of me wants to move this vote for the next meeting so that he could be here for that vote, but I don't think he would want that. So I am really bummed that we have to vote on this when he's not here. So good work to everybody involved in this. All right, is there any public comment?
No.
All right, the board will now vote on Resolution 7119, resolution to adopt a revised student representative and district student council policy 1.20.12-P. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed? Abstentions? Resolution 7119 is approved by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Before we move on to the next one, there's one more thing I forgot to give was the School Improvement and Facilities Oversight Committee update. In our last meeting, we went over the seismic updates. It was also notified that the district is also waiting on an engineer report that is due in July for further cost and benefit analysis and coming up with a plan for our seismic updates. And that was the main takeaway from the facilities committee meeting. All right, next we will be approving an amendment to this year's budget. Dr. Armstrong, could you introduce this?
Thank you, directors. As you know, during the course of a year, there are occasions and circumstances that require us to update our budget. This is the budget for this current academic year. It's common and routine best practice to ensure proper spending levels are maintained in accordance with what has happened throughout the school year. So I'm inviting our Chief Financial Officer, Michelle Morrison, forward to share about the budget amendment you'll be voting on this evening. Thank you, Michelle. Chief Morrison.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong and members of the board. About this time last year, you guys voted to adopt a budget for the current year that we're in. And when we do that, it's set at the highest level by fund and major function. And as we come to the close of the year, we try and reconcile our actual spending versus the budget. And so there are some variances that we are bringing here to you tonight in hopes that you get any questions you may have answered. It was a little bit of movement between the major functions of instruction and support services for both the general fund and our special revenue funds. So there is a budget staff
Thank you.
report and the amendment. We did have a small revision, so we did update that through Roseanne, and again, I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Let's put this on the table. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7120, Amendment Number 1 to the fiscal year 2024-25 budget for School District Number 1J, Multnomah County, Oregon?
So moved.
Second.
Director Split moves. Director Sullivan seconds the adoption of Resolution 7120. Board discussion or questions?
I have some questions for the record. So I asked them in advance, and I'm just going to ask them at the meeting. So there was a decrease in instruction by $4 million and a shift. What's the $4 million that we didn't spend? Because when I asked that question, and I'm looking at you, but this is a question for the broader universe because you weren't here all this fiscal year. But if we didn't spend $4 million on instruction, like, why not? We agonize over like $100,000. So I'm just curious, what's the $4 million that we didn't spend on instruction? Because the answer I got was basically saying this is just a very small variance, and it is. But like we agonize over, like we cut a lot of the library people, and that was a lot less than $4 million. So I'm curious. Like we could have paid for the library, all the library services and the assistance that we laid off last year. So.
Well, those funds, those savings were utilized, and that's why this amendment is between instruction. We did use more support services funds, and so that's what we're sharing with you here this evening.
But wouldn't that have been in last year's budget? I'm just because we're amending it because we actually amended we're amending the budget we approved last year, right?
Yes, this is the budget that was adopted this time last year for the current fiscal year.
Right. So last year, we set the budget, and we actually decreased it. So this is after we passed the budget, we just decreased instruction by another 4 million.
I think what happens over the course of the school year is if we are experiencing savings in one area of the budget, so we set a spending level at X, and if there were instructional positions that were going unfilled over a period of time, but we could also support students through the other support services area, that's where the money was spent from. So I do think that, you know, there is a little bit of variance from the spending plan that we put forward. Our budget was $850 million for the general fund. And so when you look at that, and I shared that percentage with you of how little movement that was between instruction and support services. I know that sounds like a really large number, but we do have fluctuations throughout the year based on what our student needs are and what our actual operational costs are.
So the money was spent just in a different place?
Yes.
Yeah, we increased
Okay.
the requirement for, that was my next question, which
Yeah.
is we increased the requirement for support services. So this is just a general process question. And again, this year mid-year, so this is just a process question generally for finance. We have to amend the budget because we're over 10% of the change, because otherwise you can just move things around, right?
No, that would be a supplemental budget, so that would be
So you're
reconvening
amending it
everyone all
because
again
of
and
why?
publicizing. Because it is a variance, it is movement between, and it's a best practice and a past practice here that if there's any variance, we need to bring that forward to you. Our auditors look for that for transparency and disclosure purposes so that it's not happening after the year has closed. And so that's why we're bringing it to you now. If we didn't, we would likely have an auditor finding for not sharing this information with you.
Right, but it's already happened.
It is happening, correct?
It has happened.
Yeah.
So it's just basically a formality.
It's a disclosure, yes.
Does this amendment that increased the debt service, does that true the books up then for this year? Is it a truing, or is that not the right way to approach
The debt service
it?
change was more of a recommendation that came to us post-adoption, that we are not, for our debt service fund, supposed to budget any contingency there. So we have to move it to unappropriated fund balance. And so that was the shift that we made there. It was more of a technical correction as we were just closing up the year.
And just from an accounting standpoint, do we know exactly what the support, as the money was shifted into other accounts, like what that purchased?
I don't have that level of detail here for you tonight, and to be frank, we won't likely know until the financial accounting has been reconciled for the whole year, and that doesn't happen until pre-audit period of probably late September, early October. And so those final numbers will come to you in the form of the financial report for the year.
And then the way the money was spent was, there was an increase in support and then an increase in, that looks like it was for outside placement for special ed students and transportation costs related to specialized student transportation, and then our RESJ contracts. So you're saying this, and it says in the explanation we got this afternoon that the RSJ, that's a technical correction because we planned on spending, but the money wasn't there, or?
Well, it's my understanding that that was a board directive at the end of the adoption to go ahead and refund contracts that weren't necessarily provided for in the proposed budget. And so that created a need for a shift.
Okay, so even the board did it though before it was adopted? You're just saying it just didn't get captured?
I don't believe it was captured in the document and in the appropriations.
Okay.
It was late in the process, but we did, this is how we make space for that change.
Okay, yeah, it was before we adopted the budget, so it just must have not gotten in the budget.
Yeah, I'm not firm on the timeline.
Yeah,
Director Pass?
we'll have the history from going forward.
Great. Any other questions? Is there any public comment?
No.
Right. Thank you. The board will now vote on Resolution 7120, Amendment Number 1 to the fiscal year 2024-25 budget for School District Number 1J, Multnomah County, Oregon. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Thank you. All opposed? Abstentions? Resolution 7120 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with, so yeah, passes. Just going to call on Student Representative Katavi. Right. Next, we have the adoption of the 2025-26 budget. The board began receiving initial recommendations in January. It was revised and reshared in March before we received the superintendent's proposal in April. Since then, we've had a budget hearing and received the Community Budget Review Committee's report. We approved the budget at our last meeting and earlier this evening. The Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission reviewed and certified the budget we are adopting tonight. Dr. Armstrong, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. Just wanting to emphasize that we made every attempt to preserve key supports for teaching and learning, including early literacy and math acceleration. And we also wanted to minimize our impacts to schools as much as possible. But with that, I'm going to pass it to our Chief Financial Officer to present. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have a slide deck or anything. I think you guys are well familiar with the information that we presented and the feedback we received. Just great appreciation for the terrific questions and interactions we had with the directors, and gratitude to my team, a really amazing team that just this process for them was like amazing clockwork, and I was very proud to be a part of it.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7120, impose taxes and adoption of the 2025-26 budget for School District Number 1J, Multnomah County, Oregon?
Excuse me, it's Resolution 7121.
What did I say?
20.
I'm sorry. Adopt Resolution 7121. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Director DePass moves. Director Sullivan seconds the adoption of Resolution 7120. Board discussion.
You can go. I always go first. I guess I just always go first now. I, of course, can't vote for this budget without just quickly acknowledging the fact that the state has continued to underfund public schools throughout Oregon for decades. And this budget.
Hey!
Is that what you want to say? Oh.
I'll call on you next.
And so this budget reflects not the values that I think we as a district have, the values that we as a board have, but a reality that we're stuck with. That we're making cuts to schools that we know need more resources, that we're losing valuable team members. There's a first-year teacher from my school that came in and just saved the day with a really tough second grade class with a lot of high needs. You know, we all have stories, every school, of somebody super valuable that's not going to be in our schools next year because of the passage of this budget. And I know the district office is feeling the loss of so many important and key coworkers as well. I don't know what's going to change this dynamic for the state of Oregon, but I promise to speak up every chance I have and do all that I can with my legislative experience and some of the relationships I have to try to change the dynamic. I'll be a yes on this budget, but I want everybody to understand that it's not because I support underfunding our schools or making cuts when we need more resources, but it's because we need to have a budget, and I think it shows respect for the work that Assistant Director Morris and her team and the superintendent have done toward doing their best. And we all know there are things that we don't agree with in this budget. So my yes vote does not mean that I agree with every move or every piece, because there's so much I don't agree with because it's what we're stuck with. So I just wanted to put that on the record and make it really clear. You know, the dozens of emails we get about different dynamics at different schools, I hate all of it. And I wish I could do something to change it. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Hollins.
Yes. I just want to thank, oh Lord, my brain is on the block. But what I will say is, I'll be voting no on this budget again, like I've done the last 3 years. It's not because I don't value the hard work that's gone into it, but I just cannot and get conscious support a budget that continues to fall short of what our students deserve. Once again, the state of Oregon has failed to fully fund public education, even according to its own quality education model. That's the very standard, that standard it creates to define what an adequate and equitable education should look like. So by adopting this budget, we're accepting a funding gap that shifts the burden onto our schools, our staff, and ultimately our kids. Once again, we're asked to do more with less. And until the state meets its obligation, its moral obligation, to really fully fund education, there's no way I will vote yes on a budget that continuously normalizes underfunding. And when we have a legislative office, the legislators in Salem continue to put a sham of legislation together around accountability and what they hope to get and all these things, it's a big, it's a big con, and I want to sell them some bridges as well. When we talk about shared accountability, it has to be shared across everyone, not just on the back, so that way they can scapegoat and use that as, well, we gave them more money and we asked for accountability, knowing that they didn't even give us what they say we needed. And so, once again, that's why I'll be voting no. And I'm ask my fellow board members to vote no, because I think if something has to happen, something has to change. And maybe if we vote no, maybe the state will figure out they got to do something better, or maybe not. But that's just my yearly protest with underfunding schools. Thank you.
Director Hollins, I love your protest. I agree with all your sentiments that you said. So what I say next is not directed at you, just so you know. But I just want to make sure that we understand the context and it's for public education. I 100% agree with my fellow Director Split and Director Hollins, and how both you said it perfectly lays exactly how I feel. I do want to remind, just in terms of public education, when we approved this budget, it is the board approving the limits on the money that PPS does get from the state. We have no say in the amount of money that we get from the state. And so this is basically just approving the limits of spending that we put on the district. So I just want to put that out there so that people aren't unclear that when we if we vote yes and approve this budget, we are not approving the behavior of the state of Oregon. What we are doing is we are approving the behavior of our district with what we are given. So that is my piece. And I agree wholeheartedly. We need to keep raising a ruckus with the state and show them that what they're doing and what their funding level is totally inadequate. Any other board discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions and then some comments. So first of all, I want to thank Chief Morrison for responding to a lot of questions I ask. I appreciate that. And sort of tracking them down. There's one that came up just in the last couple of days that I'm interested in what the district approach is going to be, just given the fluidity, is the potential cut to outdoor schools. So PPS, even in the worst fiscal years in the last 50 years, has always supported 5 days of outdoor school. So I'm curious with the state, potentially the state cutting the amount, what the district response would be.
So we did, it was a pretty short turnaround in time there, but I did a little bit of connecting with our staff on this topic. And a day of outdoor school for PPS is about $665,000. So you can, per day, it kind of shows what the impact of that would cost. Yeah, and this is for all sixth graders. So there are other districts not far from us that have like a 3 and 4 day, so a little bit abbreviated outdoor school experience, but is still developed and ran very similarly to meet the curriculum, because it is a state-funded program with very specific standards that students must meet while they attend.
So PPS always paid for it out of our own district funds until we passed Outdoor School for All. And then it was became a state appropriation, but PPS had always paid for it by itself. I mean, this is one of the ways actually the state actually picked up some funding that PPS had paid for. Pardon?
How long ago was that?
Well, I'll just say, I still have my soil samples upstairs. But even, for example, in 2002, when we were going to lose 5 weeks of school, like this school community was, we wanted to maintain five days of outdoor school, like the experience that everybody's had. And then in, I want to say it's like 14, 15, there was a statewide initiative because it was like, it's great for Portland students, but a lot of other districts couldn't afford it, so they took a portion of the lottery revenue to pay for it at the state level, and it goes through Oregon State now.
Thank you. Director Split?
So
and then Director
if they cut it, would the district come back?
There's not currently a plan in place for that. Our proposed, approved, and hopefully soon adopted budget for 25-26 is probably a higher risk budget than I've built before, considering we're using up some one-time funds set aside. We were banking on those PERS savings from Senate Bill 849, and all of those one-time shifts have been they've been done. And so as we continue to budget, counting on vacancy savings and strategizing and getting tight and having to move money between fund and function areas, I think that would require another look to see what we would reduce in order to accommodate an additional cost. And that would be for any legislation that comes through this spring that we haven't planned for.
Director Split?
I want to go back to you, but want to talk about outdoor school, if that's okay, before you move on to your other
Go ahead and talk about outdoor
comments.
school while I'm up. I mean,
is that okay? And
well,
then
we're
we'll
on
go
the
back
thread.
to you.
I think it's
okay, cool. I have a few things to say on this. So first of all, I just want to clarify the $665,000. That's like the total is like 5 times $665,000 for all the sixth graders to go. I was imagining it was like when one class was up there, and I was like, I don't even understand.
Oh, no.
Okay, it's just collectively. So if the state cuts funding by 20%, which would be commensurate to a $665,000 hole in our budget for, am I getting that right? Okay, great. Yeah. Well,
it's 5 days minus 20%.
Would be, yeah, so we would be 665,000 short of being able to offer that. Okay. Just making sure that we all understood that, because I got a little confused. The other thing is, I had an idea, and I haven't executed it yet, of doing, if I'm worried I'm going to say something I'm not allowed to say, but I've been wanting to do like a sign-on letter with school board members to the legislature about this, because they're cutting outdoor school by 20%, and lottery proceeds are down, I think, like 0.5%. It's like a really, just talk about like cutting kids instead of whatever else they need the lottery funds for. And it's really only been, I think, since it's like 2016, I think, that we passed Outdoor School for All. It's not even been very long. And so I was thinking about doing like a letter. So am I allowed to circulate a letter for people to sign on to the legislature?
Of course you can.
Yes.
Okay, that's not a serial
decision.
meetings law?
You can share the letter with your fellow board members,
Okay.
and then not have meetings about it, not engage
Great.
in discussion.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good. All right. I will do something like that, and I would love to have anybody who wants to stand up for outdoor school so that we avoid having this hole that we would need to somehow figure out how to fill. I also just wanted to say I think it might be a great opportunity for the Fund for PPS to do fundraising to support outdoor school. What if we had families in the district that were willing to help donate money to help keep that program going, or make it 4.5 days instead of 5 or 4 or something? Because I know raising $665,000 seems like a lot, but I also know how much our school raises at my school in our auction, so I feel like, you know, maybe we could make it happen. So I think that might be a good plan if the bill if the lottery bond package passes with that 20% cut. So that's all. Thank you for the clarification. I will work on getting a letter around, and I hope we can consider creative ways to keep that 5th day next year if we need to.
Love it. Director Hollins?
Yes, Director Spade and Director Bermewers, I'm so glad you guys brought that up. I am 100% supportive of keeping outdoor school at 5 days. You know, Director Bermewers said she has her soil samples. I still have my hobo stove from outdoor school, and you know, that is one of the great experience that I think our kids get, that when you talk with school leaders across the country, we're very uniquely positioned with our outdoor school here. And I think that is something that not only our 6th graders, our elementary schools, when they get to 6th grade, look at and really are excited about going. But even our high schoolers are proud of it. When you're at graduations, you see them still walking the stage with their outdoor cookie, right? And that's the pride of PPS, right? That's the pride of Oregon, that, you know, when you have seniors that are graduating with their cookies on their shawl, like that's huge. And to make sure that we are continuing that tradition, that curriculum, that leadership skills, and all the skills that is possessed by attending outdoor school or going back to volunteer outdoor school, I think it's something that we need to fight tooth and nail for. And Director Spade, I will be happy to sign, speak, talk, go down to Salem to talk about that at any time you need me to go down there. And I will also employ our board and new board when they come on to figure out a way to, if that does happen, figure out a way to raise additional $600,000 and some $1,000, and I will help with that as well, as far as fundraising or whatever needs to be done to make that happen, because that is something that is so valuable to our kids, and it stays with them from 3rd grade on when they're thinking about going to outdoor school, when they see the 6th graders leave for outdoor school, when they see them come back, you know, the elementary school kids see that, and all the way up to when they are excited about being a counselor or a team leader at outdoor school. And so, you know, that's something that is Oregon, and that's something that we need to continue to advocate for, fight for, and however way you guys need me, I'm here to help.
That's excellent. I love outdoor school too. It was a really great experience for me, and I was in the Polar Bear Club, jumped in an unheated pool 4 days out of the 5, and would do it again. And my kids really loved it, and as a single parent, I needed that 5th day just to spend time with the other child at home. So yeah, I wonder if there's something that the Fund for PPS could pitch in for. Just a question.
So I'll just say, I appreciate you drafting a letter, but I also think we should just mobilize the ranks. So it was 2016 when ballot measure 99 passed. I was part of it, and I'll just say, anytime outdoor school is threatened, like all those wood cookie people come out of the, myself included, come out of the woodwork, and I think it should be just more than a letter. I think we can mobilize our our rising sixth graders, their families, and send a real message. And regardless of what the legislature does, I also think there is a lot of opportunity because when we were cutting everything else in 2002, this is the one thing that we saved for our sixth graders. Just speaking to Director Holland's comments, if you grew up in PPS, this is a defining moment in your years at PPS.
Do I see Brimmer on the cookie? Brimmer?
I was a high school. See, I keep everything, and that's my sixth grade one in that picture too. And I do have my soil samples. Are we done with outdoor school? Because I'm.
Yeah, just one comment. My daughter just did outdoor school this year, and she wishes she could go back. So it sounds like it's $3.3 million for the full 5 days. Let's raise 6.6, make it a full 10 days. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
My daughter would love that because she didn't want to come home. It's the first time I ever heard her say that. So anyways, no. What was I going to say? Yeah, Director, bring my words. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go on. Sorry. I'm glad everybody got on board with that outdoor school. So I had a question about Indian education and the tribal liaison. So in the series of questions, I asked about whether there were any new positions, and that was mentioned the tribal liaison. The meetings I went to with the Indian Parent Committee, Dr. Armstrong, you had talked about sort of how you'd see a position because you'd recommended it. I'm wondering if you could just describe a little bit better, because the parents had described it as something, sort of their vision is something a little bit different than what would be traditionally a tribal liaison. So just for clarity.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the question. I actually have my team queued up. So we have Dr. Adams and Senior Director Watson, who are prepared to answer the question and just share a little context about the evolution of the position from when I first proposed it to where we're at today, please.
Sure. Good evening again, board directors. I'm happy to begin. And then Ms. Watson, I always want to do that. Only up here. We'll continue. The position has evolved based on some feedback we received, and Nicole will be able to speak to that, to be a director of tribal relations, based on some feedback we received from the Native and Indigenous community. And Ms. Watson can take us through the timeline of where and how we've been engaged so far to talk a little bit about that evolution.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. Good evening, board. Nicole Watson, Senior Director of Family and Community Engagement. So happy to share a little evolution around this role. The role will be developed based on some feedback that we've received from our Native and Indigenous communities. The director specifically will kind of serve as this critical bridge between the district and the tribal nations to strengthen our relational infrastructure and honor our responsibility to Native and Indigenous communities, students, and families. The Office of Family and Community Engagement is leading the effort to establish a Director of Tribal Relations, a position in the 25-26 school year. The position was first introduced in the January 2025 board report from Superintendent Armstrong as a part of a broader vision to support and to build trust and alignment with Native communities. Since then, we have engaged in multiple conversations to refine the purpose of and potential impact of the role. Specifically on April 10th, during the Indian Education public meeting, we revisited the proposed position and discussed kind of how it could be complemented with the work of the Director of Indian Education, which is Director Murr. I want to shout out her work and the incredible strides that she's taking in community, and particularly in supporting students with multiple tribal affiliations or multiple racial identities who might not currently being served by Title VI. This conversation continued at our May 21st community conversation with the Native and Indigenous community at Jefferson High School, where we engaged community, where they shared really powerful insight and feedback, aspirations for the role, aspirations for the position, and how this role might operate across departments, our schools, and our system. Throughout these engagements, one theme really emerged that was really crystal clear, that we do have a shared desire for PPS to demonstrate In action, it's long-term commitment to Native and Indigenous students through sustained investment, not only programmatically, but in leadership and in infrastructure. So I want to also just pause and share my my genuine support and appreciation for Director Sullivan in attending that community conversation. I also want to flag that while there were diverse perspectives on how the role should be defined, the community was really consistently clear in expressing the need for PPS to allocate dedicated resources to support all Native and Indigenous students, regardless of tribal enrollment status or access to existing programs. Specifically, the Director of Tribal Relations is envisioned as a trusted connector, a collaborator, and a systems level advocate working in partnership with Native families and tribal leaders to ensure that students are seen, that they are supported, and that they are empowered throughout their educational journey and experience. I also just want to pause and recognize the very real sense of urgency that often accompanies efforts like these, and yet in our commitment to rebuilding trust with some of our most historically harmed and marginalized communities, I'm also equally proud that we are choosing to slow down, that we are intentionally making space to listen, to learn, and to be guided by the voices of Native and Indigenous families who are generously, keyword generously, showing us how to move alongside in allyship with their community. I know the dominant impulse is to often move quickly, especially when our intentions are good, but we recognize the meaningful, lasting change requires patience, humility, and a posture of accountability. So I hope that shares a little bit of some timeline around the role, the evolution of the role. As Dr. Armstrong had initially mentioned it in January, we needed to pause to wait to hear from community in April and in May, and we feel ready at this time to proceed.
Thank you. I appreciate the continued listening to the Native community, because I think their focus was less on the government-to-government relationships, which is what a tribal liaison would be, and more on the Native students and the families and how PPS can support them. So I appreciate the continued listening and hope that they are key to shaping it, because if it doesn't serve our Native staff and students and their families, then it's probably not the best use of the FTE. So thank you for that. I had a question about or just a clarification on the college and career coordinators. So all the schools in the question Q&A said they have a college and career coordinator, but my understanding is that Alliance does not have either.
Thank you for your question. I think I'm going to invite Dr. John Franco up here to respond to that. He's has responded to that in the past, that category of question, so I'd like to invite him up now.
Can I, while we're waiting for Dr. Franco to come down, just thank and shout out Senior Director Watson for her very careful and intentional listening at the Indian Ed, the community meeting. I heard from people that were at the meeting, and I heard from also Director Sullivan, who was really proud of how Nicole worked with the community and listened, and is a trusted, people believe her when she makes a commitment, and I think that's really important in rebuilding trust and solving for those marginalized students.
Yes, I just ditto what you said. I was so impressed with her listening skills and really hearing what was being said, not, really taking it to heart.
Senior Director Watson, she's hiding.
Yeah, she's hiding. She's not hearing all this.
But we really meaningfully want to say thank you, and we've heard from community members, and again, Director Sullivan, how meaningful that engagement was. Thank you.
Do you want me to repeat my
question? Yes, thank you. Sorry.
So my question was, so the staffing manual this year basically said that they wouldn't be staffing, the district wouldn't be staffing a career coordinator. And in the responses, when I asked, do all schools have a college and career coordinator, the answer was yes. But my understanding is Alliance and MLC don't have that?
Yeah, so we allotted staffing for a 0.5 college coordinator, which is a licensed position, but gave autonomy to principals to, they could convert that if they wanted to a 1.0 career coordinator if they so desired. So they had that autonomy to do that. MLC is one that they do not have that. I think those are pieces that principals work through in order to meet core program on how to utilize their staffing.
And Alliance?
They don't have it.
So
I would say Alliance and MLC are the two.
And did they have one when the district provided an FTE for it?
They did.
They did. Okay. Thank you. While you're up here, the Southeast Guiding Coalition Schools. So I asked about this before,
yes.
And I had asked what schools asked for, and the protocol, instead of PPS setting aside 10, was that the schools needed to ask for it and that the decision would be made. And when I asked what schools had asked for it, it kind of surprises me because I see them only list of 7 schools, and it appears that what got approved was essentially 3 FTE.
Correct, but
Is
2.8.
So if this list that has the 7 schools, Woodstock, Atkinson, Bridger, Kellogg, Woodmere, Lane, and Mount Tabor,
Mm-hmm.
those are the only ones who throughout the process asked for additional FTE, the principal.
Correct. Those are the requests.
Okay.
Very specific to SCGC.
And if like the school community asked but the principal didn't ask, that didn't, there's not a wrong answer. I'm just clarifying. Because like we're getting lots of emails, so I'm just like surprised to see the list.
Yeah, I'm getting them as well. I will say the emails that I have gotten, I don't know which ones you've gotten, but they are ones on
similar.
this list. So they are ones on this list, and so we did follow the process where senior directors of schools were involved and principals did request. Senior directors of schools then went through all the requests and then brought them to an overarching meeting that we had, and we've had 3 meetings to date. And the rationale for the schools that weren't given an allocation is they were so close and even beneath the threshold, say for class size, that we needed to wait until the fall. But we're still, again, the plan is to start in August and to meet weekly, monitoring enrollment adjustments.
So if we got emails from schools that aren't on this list, it's because their principal didn't ask for it, even though school communities asked for it.
That's correct.
Again, there's not a wrong answer. I'm just wanting to reconcile this. And then I'm going to just ask about Atkinson, because actually we just had the TSCC chair from that school who had raised this issue of PPS essentially collapsing their neighborhood program, which in the past PPS had said that single-strand neighborhood programs weren't the thing to do. So it can be solved within this school. That is that actually we're creating a single strand for Atkinson.
Yeah, their request, and so the first thing that we do is to see if there are any level of internal adjustments that could be made. And this was very specific to the English-only strand.
Okay, I'm going to follow up after the meeting, but because in the past PPS has said they try not to have single-strand programs because there's a whole host of impacts. Okay, thank you for that clarification. So instead of 10, we've given out 3.
Yes, 2.8.
Okay.
Can I just ask what single strand means? Is that just one section, K through 5? And so we have a bunch of schools that are single strand, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
so
you. I was just curious what the word means, that's all.
The issue is, like, we have a lot, and this is specific to Southeast Portland because it's overloaded with focus option schools. This is exactly what the TSCC chair was asking about, because it's totally overloaded. And so then you get all the parents squeezing into the focus programs and leaving the neighborhood strand.
We lose 30 kids we lose 30 kids from my school to Odyssey, so I know about it. Yeah.
But during the closing of the Lent neighborhood program, there was a whole host of discussion about how academically it wasn't good for kids to have single strands. So the solution within the school there is creating a single strand. My last question is, and then I have just a comment. My last question is about the Health and Welfare Trust. So in February, I'd ask about the contract with a former administrator who is supporting it. In April, I asked for some travel records, and again asking about the ANC Consulting, which had a consulting contract. And then in May, I asked for the audit. And today I received the travel information. It's disappointing that this came like in the middle of the afternoon. I got that, even though I asked 2 months ago, the travel documents, a notice that instead of winding up the contract with the administrator in May, that we actually have signed a new contract with the former administrator that is going to go on, and that the audit is not available. And we have $111 million that goes into the Health and Welfare Trust, and to ask for the audit seems like the bare minimum of level of transparency. So I don't know why we can't get the audit. I'm looking at you, Sharon, because you're the person who's been talking to the trust, but it seems
the trust is a separate entity, and they get to make that decision. We have requested them, and we have been told no so far. And I believe, as I shared with you, we're pursuing that with the trust lawyer. So this is not a definitive. We asked promptly when you asked us.
So we put $111 million in. We have PPS administrators on the trust board. Do they get the audit? In their role with PPS, they get the audit, right?
I'm not a trustee. I can only assume that they do, but they have an obligation to the trust. And so we're in this place of trying to navigate between the trust as a separate entity and PPS, and trying to meet your request as well with those competing interests and relative obligations.
Yeah, with the amount of money that we spend and the fact that our senior administrators are engaged in the trust from a minimal transparency standpoint, it seems like we should have access to that, because it just raises the question, like, is there some reason why we shouldn't see it? And then the other question I had is, and I would ask Sharon Reese if she were here, but I'm going to ask you, because we were.
She's right there.
Okay. You weren't here earlier, sorry, when I asked. But so you had sent me an email saying that the contract with a former administrator that we spent a couple $100,000 with last year that would wind down would expire in June, is what you told me. And then now there's a new contract that started in May for that same.
Yeah, this is actually mine. We were sharing the response and compiling information, and so Sharon was the one that sent that back to you. But the contract you're referring to was was for two different purposes. So for the remainder of the current year, it was onboarding myself and 3 other new finance leaders as we jumped into budget and we jumped into operationalizing this system, which is quite large and complex. And so I had requested that we maintain that level of support for the remainder of the current school year. 2 of us in the finance team are part of the trust now on the board. We're very new to it. and the operations of it. And this former administrator, has experience with the trust, and so we asked that that person stay on as an alternate through the end of December. And so that was a requirement for a new abbreviated contract just for that purpose, and no longer for training and onboarding of our new finance staff.
So in February, you told me that the training was going to happen and that was going to expire. But I guess this is a contracting question. It's the same entity. Why wouldn't it be an amendment to the existing? Because it looks like it's just trying to stay. Looks like it's trying to stay below the level.
The scope of work is quite a bit different than what we were asking those consultants to support us with in the current year. And I agree. I guess it could have been an amendment, but to me it was a totally different abbreviated
I'll forward
scope.
the previous correspondence I got, because this is to do the transition, and then we'll be done in June.
I do think that was in fact at the time, and then we became involved with the trust and realized that we needed additional support in that area. So that was by my request.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to say?
I was going to add that another complicating factor is one of our long-term trust members is resigning as well. So we continue the need for additional subject matter experts to serve on the trust.
Okay. Pardon? Yes, closing comments. Do other people can ask their questions so I can do my...
Director DePass. All right, right back to you. Sorry for the interruption. I thought there was another question.
Okay. I want to say I think we have done as best we could, staffing our schools, staying focused on what we would what's the main thing, which is our students. I have to say that I'm disappointed that the early slides that we had that laid out the administrative savings, whether it was from professional service contracts, travel, or professional development, that we had targets and that now there is no specificity. And I feel like when we're cutting 240 to 270 FTE in our schools, that's an overarching, but 156 FTE in our positions in our schools, that we need to be very transparent. And the answers that when I asked for the details, it was like, it's not yet determined. And the 200,000 in travel savings, when I asked like from what amount, so that we, like, the school community would know at a certain point, like, hey, this is like all shared sacrifice, that school communities lost teachers and other staff that are valuable members of their community, that the shared sacrifice would also be in these other categories that got highlighted early on. And I'm afraid that it's just so vague that it may never happen because it's not outlined. In the past, we've had some pretty specific, okay, like we're gonna have shared sacrifice. These are the contracts that are gonna be trimmed, or this is the amount of travel we have and it's going to go down to this amount. And there hasn't been any of that specificity, and I'm obviously not going to be here this next year to ask about the specificity. But I think that's what our school community deserves when we have to make hard cuts. And I'm also I'm concerned about the fact that I've asked for several months for an operational budget for the Center for Black Student Excellence, and we don't have that. If we're anticipating and standing up a program, it's not going to be free, and we can't use bond dollars for that. So the fact that we're adopting the budget, and there's been no visibility, and they answered the questions, say that we got some information at the May 19th meeting, which we didn't. I think is a big hole, and I'm also, just going back to, I feel like the district, we build trust by doing what we say we're going to do, and I feel like we're in this budget cycle, we didn't do what we said we were going to do for the Southeast Guiding Coalition schools, and it may seem like, hey, those are just a couple schools, but it was a huge process and very traumatizing for a lot of schools. And so when the district said, we're going to support you by taking these specific steps over the next several years, because it's not just a one-year thing, that we should, stick to what we said we were going to do, or have some engagement with the community. And I asked about the community engagement early on, and it never happened. Which is disappointing, because if we're going to tell the community we're not going to do something, I think, frankly, they respect if we show up and say, here's why things changed and why we can't do it, and that, didn't happen. So this is a case where I think there are some pretty significant gaps in how we put the school budgeting together, and how the transparency to the community with how we're going to spend some of our money. And I'm really concerned the fact that to ask for like a month about just a basic audit, which is a pretty standard thing, that they have refused to give it. I mean, I can only assume they've refused to give it to us because we've asked for it. And I think that is a pretty concerning governance issue. Yes, they may be separate, but we're sending them $111 million. So.
Director Hollins?
Yes, I just wanted to kind of comment a little bit with Director Brim Edwards was saying. One thing that, and I've said this before about, one administration or one set of board members making promises and commitments that binds other districts, other administrations or other boards to things, does not lead or lend itself to be very flexible when things come up. We have one of the most worst cuts that we've had in current history of having these type of cuts. Sticking to a commitment or a promise that other administrations or other boards made is not necessarily fair to not just to that community, but fair to the other communities that you will have to take money from to make sure that that promise or that commitment is made to. So it's not fair on all fronts, from the previous folks to the current folks. And another thing, when we talk about fully transparent, I feel that this administration and this team, where the budget has been very transparent from the beginning. It was always said there was going to be cuts that have to be made. There was ample opportunities for board members to advocate for what they felt should stay, and also whether those trade-offs would be. It's one thing to tell someone, well, we need you to cut such and such, but then another thing is to say, you know what, if we cut such and such, we can get it from here, we can get it from there. And that's, as a budget committee, that's on us. That is our responsibility to do that. If anyone on the board had a opinion of, we need to do this, we need to do that, it's our responsibility to also say, and we should take it from here, or we should take it from there. As far as the CBSE goes, this is really fascinating, because I actually went back and looked at the some of the conversations they had in 2020 about putting this Center for Black Excellence on there. At no time did I hear about operational costs back then, knowing we were going to have some. And so it's mind-boggling that now we talk about operational costs when that didn't even come up, at least in some of the things that I have researched. they didn't come up about what the operational goal cost was going to be. And so to bring that up now as a almost a fail is to seem like this seemed really disingenuous, because whenever whoever brought it up to be put on the bond should at that point talk about as well what is the operational cost that's going to come from the decision that we're making. And this is what happens when we make either emotional or political decisions and not look at all the underlying consequences or underlying facts of what this decision is going to entail later on. Anytime we talk about we want to do a bond for school or for improvements, we know that there's maintenance. Same thing that goes with the sports that we allocated $87 or $97 million for. I haven't heard anyone talk about what's the operational cost for those things either. I haven't heard not one board member say, you know what, we just allocated $97 million for sports hubs. No one said anything about, well, what's the maintenance cost? What's the operational cost? So to do that for this is really disingenuous, and I think it's really totally out of line, because I haven't heard, except for this one piece of thing that's in a bond, that anybody talked about operational costs. That's it.
Members.
Yeah.
And then we need to finish after your comment, okay?
Great. Director Hollins, I think it's completely within the realm of responsibility to ask if we have a major new asset coming online, whether we've budgeted for it in the next fiscal year. It's just we don't have any of those other items coming on, capital items coming online, but if we had a major capital online, I would expect it would be in the budget. So my questions that I've been asking have been, is it in the budget, and where is it? Not any sort of opposition, but it's just I haven't seen it. So it's like if we didn't budget, can you allow me to finish my statement, Director Hollins? So if we didn't budget for it, that's one thing I've just been asking, like, we budgeted for it or not, and what specifically we budgeted for. And I don't think it's an unreasonable question at all, and I don't think it's disingenuous at either, because we do forecast out. When we replace a high school, we have existing costs that we're either going to lower or increase, and that gets built into our annual operating costs. And we have, frankly, if we have a new asset coming online, it makes sense to ask what the operational cost is, and it's not just maintenance. I mean, so that's one thing. The other thing is first of all, I would say in our closing comments that I don't expect to have a rebuttal, but since you raised the question about offering other items as offsets, the professional development, the contracts, and the travel weren't things that I put on the table. I just asked what the details were. And I've asked for a month. And the answer is that's going to be decided later. And I'm just making a statement that I don't think that is adequate when we are making some really specific cuts in our schools and in our staff. And again, if I were here later on this year, I would be asking the question 6 months from now, what are the $6 million in cuts? What are the 200,000? Do we actually achieve them? But I'm not going to be here now. So, and traditionally we've outlined what those were when we adopted the budget.
For the sake of time,
I just want to say one thing, and then I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Director.
I agree with looking for operational costs and looking how things is going to cost, and I understand that. But we have $97 million of athletic hubs come on. That's going to be new assets, new capital projects that we're going to be bringing on to PPS. I've not once ever heard you ask for operational costs for that. I have never once heard you ask for, well, what is it in the budget or what we're going to be costing for that. That's all I'm saying. If we're going to do it for one, it has to be for everything that we're bringing on.
And when they come online, I would be asking those questions. You can be sure.
Okay, I need to cut this off right here. I appreciate both of you, all right? Director Biden-Edwards, you bring up some serious concerns that we need to pay attention to. Director Hollins, I'm very thankful that you also are bringing the perspective that we also need to consider. you bring perspective to this. So thank you both. I think you both add good points. For the sake of time, we do need to move on. I would like to ask if there are further questions that may or may not, if there are further questions that may affect your vote on this, we can ask that now. But otherwise, I think a follow-up email or to staff would be more appropriate in terms of tonight's agenda. So are there any other comments tonight questions that would affect your decision? All right, I don't see any. Do we have any public comment?
Yes. We have Aaron Frazier, Samantha Thomas, and Anna Fedorenko.
Thank you, Chief Morrison. I really appreciate your time answering the questions. You've been here before, so I assume you already know all the rules, guidelines, and everything, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Aaron Frazier, Executive Director of the Center for Black Excellence. And while I did not realize that my commentary would be quite so timely, I'm very glad to be able to give it in response to the discussion that just arose. I think a key factor that I would like to bring up here, and thank you all for, in fact, is the inclusion of real programming dollars in this budget for the Center for Black Student Excellence. As you all well know, the Center for Black Student Excellence has been without consistent leadership within this district for, I'm sure, a myriad number of reasons for many, many years. That even in this very tight fiscal scenario that you all are facing, you have committed to ensuring that there is a director for the Center for Black Student Excellence who can, in their everyday work, be committed to answering those questions that will in fact have to be answered as we move further into this process is commendable, and I would say actually suggests a commitment to making sure that you can do this work thoroughly and in alignment with board and community goals. In addition to that piece, I'd also just remind this board that this is a fiscal year 2025 to 2026 budget, and at least as far as I know, there is no physical center yet. If you would like to announce one, you all know that you are very much so invited and encouraged to do so by June 24th. And as I understand it, you've been making progress towards that goal. But for this year, I don't know that we are actually in a particular position to be describing what programmatic budget would be related to it that isn't covered by bond dollars, because the bond will cover community engagement related to the center, it will cover the design of the center, and it will cover really any other aspects that I think anyone can reasonably expect us to get to by June of 2026. If you all beat that goal, kudos, but I do not think that that is really the plan that the district currently has. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment. I hope to see it continued.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no one else for public comment, correct? All right. The board will now vote on Resolution 7121, impose taxes and adoption of the 2025-26 budget for school district number 1J, Multnomah County, Oregon. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed?
Yes.
Did you mean to vote yes on that?
Or no, whichever one.
Yes, no, Gary?
Just no, whatever, no. Is that it? No.
Director Green, I didn't hear your vote. I'm sorry.
I was a yes, but now I feel like I should be a no, but I'm yes, good.
Thank you. I'm a yes as well. All right, Resolution 7121 is approved by a vote of 5-2. Thank you. All right, now that we can turn the page on that. Very thorough, long process. Thank you for everyone involved. It was very informative, and again, I learned a lot this year. All right, we are next we're moving on to the superintendent evaluation. As board members, one of our chief responsibilities is to hire and evaluate the superintendent. Last Thursday marked the 1-year anniversary of when the Board of Education authorized and approved Dr. Armstrong to serve as superintendent of Portland Public Schools. So thank you. Following that decision, the board approved an evaluation template that would then use this year to evaluate Superintendent Armstrong. Throughout the year, we received performance data on the board goals, as well as post-secondary readiness indicators. Additionally, we had opportunities to meet with Dr. Armstrong for quarterly check-ins on the board goals. Since this is her first year, the focus of her evaluation is on the core competencies that came directly from the criteria that the community proposed for the superintendent when we were looking for a new leader. We worked with a retired superintendent with over 30 years of experience to gather feedback from each of us, who then crafted an evaluation based on the information he collected from the board. Last night we had an opportunity to present Dr. Armstrong with her evaluation and to hear from her reflections for the year. Dr. Armstrong, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, just to say that I began my interview process with a tagline, "Together We Rise," and it has been a line that has carried us through this year and the work in which me and the team has organized around. And I just want to emphasize that the rise that we hope to see is our forward progress on our students' academic achievement. It's the completion of the Albina projects, and it is making sure that all of our facilities are safe and restored, renovated, renewed, with the ability to heat and cool when it needs to. And so I just so appreciate not only my board team for leaning in and investing in me and being on this journey, but also my district team in the back who is hanging in after a very long school year and week and day. And so I just want to express appreciation for both of the teams that I have the pleasure of working alongside. So that's all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7122, Superintendent's Performance Evaluation 2024-25?
So moved.
Second.
Director DePass moves and Director Brim Edwards seconds the adoption of Resolution 7122. Board discussion.
I just want to start off by saying thank you so much. I've really appreciated the 100 days, the 59 days, the 69 days, the countdown. I've heard from all parts of the district the appreciation for your authenticity, your willingness to dig in, to adopt, start working in an organization where you inherited some challenges and have faced them straight on. You've put together a really strong team. I mean, they're here tonight at almost 9 o'clock at night, supporting you, and I don't expect anything but for you to continue rising and putting your mark on this community and this district. I'm really happy to vote in favor of this, and really have appreciated the process that we went through to hire someone to compile those responses for us. I think that was a really smart move on our part. I'll thank myself for that, and Director Wong for figuring out a way to move the process so we could come to some kind of a consensus, even if we don't all necessarily agree. But this is mostly just to say thank you. I have very high hopes and high expectations for your future path here. Really excited to welcome you back into this community, and am here to work with you to get the work done that needs to be done.
Thank you.
I'll just pretty much ditto what you said, but it's been a pleasure working with you, and not a pleasure working with the budget at all, but if I had to work with the budget with anybody, it would be you, I guess, because I think you're really honest about it. I have great hopes that we're going, maybe just keep surviving, since the money's so short, but surviving the very best we can, and hoping that somehow we get supported in the way we should be supported, that all the schools get supported in the way they should be supported. And if we have to go through a hard time, I think you're a good one to go through it with, because you don't say, oh, I'm saying, oh, I just wish we had more money to do what we wanted. You sort of say, we don't have it, so we're going to make the best we can with what we have. And I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you, both of you. Well said. Could repeat. Ditto for both those. Is there any? Sorry, Director Hollins.
Yeah, I just want to just take a moment, just to lift up and give deep praise to you, Dr. Armstrong. Your leadership, has brought something to this district desperately needed, not just direction, but restoration. You stepped into it. You stepped into it in a moment of uncertainty and brought calm, confidence, and care. But even more than that, you brought excellence, Black woman excellence. To see you lead as a Black woman with such integrity, intelligence, and strength in this role, it matters. It matters to our students, it matters to our families, and it matters to this community. You carry this work with grace and grit, knowing the weight that comes with being the first or the only, and you still walk boldly and grounded in your purpose. You show up for our kids, especially those often left behind. You listen to this community that have gone unheard. You lead with your heart, and you don't flinch from hard truth. It's not just leadership, it's legacy work. Thank you for showing our students, especially our young Black girls, what's possible. Thank you for leading this district with courage and compassion. And thank you for reminding all of us what it looks like when excellence and equity walk hand in hand. You forever have all my support and my deepest respect. Thank you so much.
Well said.
I just don't want to not say anything, that be read as anything. I just want to say thank you so much, and ditto to what everyone else is saying. I think what I especially appreciate is a commitment to problem solving and getting in there, getting your hands dirty, and figuring things out. And really look forward to getting down and figuring things out with you over the next couple of years. So really grateful. Didn't have a beautiful, eloquent speech, but I will say that.
All right, thank you. I can't say anything better than what's been said before. I just going to add that I'm super impressed that in your first year you learned so quickly to fill this role, which is a very difficult and huge role. And I'm very excited to see what you're doing for year 2. So thank you. All right, Ms. Bradshaw, is there public comment?
No.
All right, the board will now vote on Resolution 7122. Superintendent's Performance Evaluation 2024-2025. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? Resolution 7122 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with, sorry, I keep calling on, get better, JJ. Habit. Thank you. We finished that. Your finals for year 1 is done. Get a summer break and we move to year 2. Next, we have an update on the Jefferson enrollment strategy. Dr. Armstrong, I hand this off to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So, I've been excited to begin discussion on this. So, as you all know, that in December 2022, you all directed the superintendent to initiate a process to develop a plan to increase student enrollment at Jefferson High School by the start of 26-27 school year. And tonight I want to share our initial thoughts and begin this conversation. So I have a team, John Franco and others will introduce themselves as they speak, but we definitely are excited to begin this discussion with you all tonight. So we'll call up the slides, and then while we're pulling up the slides, I guess I can say we have Dr. Adams, and we have Dr. Calvert, and Chief Gross. Thank you all for being here. So the purpose, I'm just going to take this opening. As I mentioned before, This is what we consider the first strategic discussion about potential solutions to stabilize the growth at Jefferson High School and enrollment, right? And so we're here today to align on bold, forward-looking solutions for Jefferson High School's future enrollment. And while Jefferson has long held the promise of being a premier academic hub in North Portland with a middle college program and expanded choice through dual assignment, these efforts haven't fully delivered on equity, stability, and strong identity. And so as a result of that, enrollment remains low. And so I just want to make sure that I'm clear that we still believe that Jefferson is that premier academic hub. What we're noticing is the impact of the dual assignment, which is what's preventing the ability to deliver on the equity, stability, and strong identity. So I just want to be clear on that. And so the dual assignment model has unintentionally fragmented the student body. And at the same time, we're investing nearly, right, $500 million in a once-in-a-generation modernization of the campus. And so this is our strategic inflection point, and it's our moment to realign on vision, investment, and student experience. And so this opportunity is a responsibility to reestablish Jefferson as a strong, high-demand neighborhood school rooted in community, culture, and excellence. So I'm going to have the team walk through some data points and bring some context and timelines into the conversation. And then we'll have, I'll have a prompt, a question at the end to open up the discussion. But at this time, I will turn it over to Chief Franco.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Armstrong. So for more than a decade, PPS has operated a dual assignment procedure for Jefferson High School, allowing students to choose between Jefferson and neighboring high schools, in this case McDaniel, Grant, and Roosevelt. The overall intent of this resolution was to offer flexibility. However, this has led, as Dr. Armstrong has stated, to under-enrollment at Jefferson and overcrowding as well at other high schools. Board Resolution 4358 was enacted in December of 2022 and directed the district to resolve Jefferson's student assignment structure by 2027, aligned with the modernization of Jefferson. In response to this resolution, PPS proposes a community dialogue to begin in the fall of 2025 to consider sunsetting dual assignment and reestablishing Jefferson as a comprehensive neighborhood high school, ensuring equitable access, enrollment clarity, and long-term stability for students and schools. What you are seeing here is the published modernization schedule in regards to Jefferson High School. So in spring of 2025, design and documentation. The fall of 2025 through the fall of 2026 was land use and permitting. Spring 2026 through the winter of 26-27, field improvements. Fall of 2027 to the spring of 2029 is construction. Fall of 2029, student staff have a new building. Fall of 2029 through fall of 2030, the work continues. Track and field football is completed. And I will note
that Dr. Armstrong is going to interrupt.
There you go.
I warned him from this, and I think I've shared with the team. I know I've been in conversation with the Office of School Modernization. I'm struggling with the timeline, and I want the board to know that we're accessing and calling on some additional resources to see how we might speed up the timeline and make some adjustments, because while this is what's established and communicated now, we're very hopeful that this timeline will be accelerated in a way that opens Jefferson a lot sooner. So I just wanted to verbalize that, as I've said it in many spaces, and that's our commitment, and that Jefferson will be the first high school that opens out of these 3 modernization projects. So whatever we need to do to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Yeah, I had questions about the timeline. I'll hold them till later.
Well, we're pushing to see how soon we can be. So maybe even sooner, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there are some active plans underway and some resources that we're going to utilize.
Director Hollins?
Yeah, just in response to the timeline, I'm just curious on why are we starting with the athletic field versus the building first?
That's one of the things that I'm exploring. I know that this was the initial plan, and so, like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but these are some things that we're going to look at, because we know that getting this building open for the livelihood and also for enrollment to be able to thrive in the way that it needs to, we know that that building, our building, needs to be open, modernized, and then opened as soon as possible. So we're exploring that all parts of this timeline, even with the arrangement of what goes first.
Oh, okay, it'll just be my recommendation. I won't be here for all of that, but you know, when you put academics and athletics against each other, and you put athletic stuff first, it sends a message. It sends a message that, you know, I don't know what other school that we have done that we made athletics first in designing and or building. And to have Jefferson, which is a predominantly Black school, to have athletic stuff goes first, I really question what kind of message that sends, and those who make that decision, you know, what their thought process was as far as putting athletics over academics.
Director Hollins, I have that same question, and I've had that question ever since we were talking about rehabilitating the old building, that there seemed to be an emphasis on athletics when it does send a very strong message about the importance of the academics, particularly in that school. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Franco. Thank you, board directors. Resolution, let's start looking at some data. Resolution 4394 established that 8th grade students could choose either Jefferson or another high school based on their home address. So we wanted to show what those numbers look like in terms of data. The table you see before you shows school enrollment, and of the school enrollment, the number of students who are dual assignment students. For example, if we look at the Grant row, of the over 2,100 students attending Grant, nearly 700 of them are dual assignment students. Similarly, of the 5,700 students enrolled across these 4 campuses, 1,700 or 30% are dual assignment students. I'll give you a moment to just look at that.
And I think this is a great moment to even pause and make sure that the board is clear on the dual assignment and what that means. Okay. Good.
We could say it very explicitly, though. It means that if... So, yes, you can choose almost any other school to go to, and Benson's included in there too, but it's not shown on the slide because it's a lottery option. But basically, if you buy a house in that area, you can choose to send your students almost anywhere else besides Jefferson.
So quick question. So if Jefferson was a regular neighborhood high school.
Yeah, hold on. So let Director
Sorry,
Edwards finish.
Director Hollins.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't even see her
it's okay.
talking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll call on you next.
Just clarifying, it's not that you can go to any school. You either can go to Jefferson or McDaniel, or Jefferson or Roosevelt, or Jefferson or Grant. It's dual, not, you can choose any of them.
Correct.
Director Hollins?
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm clear, because this is really great information. I want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying if Jefferson was a regular neighborhood high school, they could roughly have around 1,739 kids going to Jefferson.
That is possible, yes.
Wow. Okay.
As we go to the next slide, we're showing you the dual assignment zones and the high school students who reside in each of those zones. These 2 maps have been made available for board directors tonight in printed format and enlarged for ease of introducing the data to you. Each dot on the map represents a high school age student. These maps show high school students by dual assignment zone in two ways. On the left are all the high school age students by program of study or chosen school within the dual assignment zone. A key point about this map is that students are choosing Jefferson at a much lower rate, as shown on the table below the map. Next, the map on the right shows these same students but by race and ethnicity. Key points here are, one, to Director DePass's point earlier, about 650 high schoolers attend PPS schools other than Jefferson or their dual assignment choice, many at Benson. And two, black students choose Jefferson at a higher rate than other schools, while white students are much more likely to attend their comprehensive option. So, you know how I love talking about enrollment and projections. This slide shows historical and projected enrollment for the dual assignment high schools. Historical and present enrollment is shown by a solid line, with future projections of enrollment shown by the dotted lines. All of these comprehensive high schools have been modernized, so you'll see sort of after, you can tell when they were modernized, because afterwards there was a slight or a big enrollment surge after construction ended. The average modernized capacity is 750 students, and we expect that Jefferson could also see a surge beginning in 2029, which is the original completion date that we know we're trying to accelerate at Dr. Armstrong's behest. But it would still be, without any adjustments to dual assignment, it would still be well below the modernized school capacity. Next, I'll share the mic with Chief Gross.
Yes. Good evening, Board of Directors. Candace Gross, Chief of Communications. So, of course, we can't talk about enrollment without talking about marketing and engagement. And so this slide is just to show you the work that's already being done in this space. Right now, strategy's in motion, so this is not a wait and see approach. Our goal is clear, and it's just to increase enrollment at Jefferson with deliberate and measurable steps. So the first thing we're doing is we want to make sure we're leading with the facts. And so earlier this spring, we launched an in-depth analysis of enrollment trends. We've identified patterns, pain points, and leverage areas to guide our next move. We've been in several conversations and weekly meetings regarding all the data that Dr. Adams has shared with us. Our messaging is already being built as we speak. So there's a customized Jefferson marketing toolkit that's in development as a part of a 2-tier campaign strategy. We're doing I call it global enterprise level, but at the district level, there's a marketing campaign that's being launched this fall called Legacies Are Made at PPS, which sets the tone. But then there are localized campaigns, particularly for different schools, and it's called Opportunity in Your Community. It positions Jefferson as a school of value, relevance, and pride. And so the toolkit for Jefferson will equip the school, the staff and partners with focused messaging tailored to the values of Jefferson. And so actually at the end of this week, I'll be doing a walkthrough of Jefferson with the principal just to get more, to calibrate more about what makes Jefferson a great school. To the team's point earlier, it's not just about athletics, right? And so there's so many great things that we want to market about Jefferson, and so I'll be there this week to just really have a full comprehensive look at that so that that toolkit can be done with intention. And so visibility will not be optional. This fall, I want to roll out a media campaign, and so putting Jefferson in the front line of families and digitally, physically, and through trusted community messaging. And so I'll turn it over to my colleague to finish with that.
If we can go back just for 1 second, Dr. Franco, I think you're driving. Thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors. Margaret Calvert, Assistant Superintendent. So part of what, just in highlighting on this slide, there's a marketing, communication, and engagement efforts that are ongoing right now at the top. And down below, there's going to be a dual assignment community dialogue. The key with this is that we're doing this, these two pieces are going to be fully integrated. We're co-hosting events with partners to meet families where they are. This includes in-person conversations, school visits, and real-time feedback loops. In addition, I just want to highlight the alignment is very intentional. Every message, every effort is aligned with the dual assignment transition. We're not running disconnected campaigns. This is one unified effort. A recommendation is coming. You'll see in winter of 2026, the board will receive a clear data-backed enrollment recommendation tied to outreach results, campaign impact, and community input. With, as you can see, the goal to strengthen enrollment at Jefferson during modernization and ensure long-term, robust enrollment. In concert with the enrollment efforts just discussed, we'll also engage the community in conversations about dual assignment, which, as we mentioned, impacts Jefferson High School, Middle College for Advanced Studies, as well as neighboring comprehensive schools, Roosevelt, Grant, and McDaniel. We are formally beginning this process with you tonight. As we move through the summer, we'll build out a detailed plan for engagement to be ready by the time students return in the fall. The first phase, review and initiate, is what we're starting today, which will ground our work in our current context, including how we got here, and looking at the enrollment numbers that Dr. Adams has shared. Then we will quickly move to initiate the engagement process. The second phase will be to engage with community members, including families, staff, and community partners, and students, excuse me, I don't want to miss the students, to develop scenarios and prepare for the final phase, which is to study and recommend, where we'll ask for feedback on potential scenarios that will shape a recommendation to bring back to the board this winter. Key to this process will be public meetings and a guided advisory committee, all focused on putting us on a path not only to increasing enrollment at Jefferson, but as Dr. Franco mentioned earlier, to equitable access, enrollment clarity, and long-term stability for students and schools.
So, as we prepare to turn over to you all for active discussion, one number that I want to share with you is right now as of today, the rising ninth graders, meaning the current eighth graders who have committed to Jefferson High School, that number is 87 students. And so we're moving and bringing this forth with some urgency, right? We cannot allow for our students not to access Jefferson High School or to see those numbers dip off in a way that programming and resources are compromised. And so that's our urgency in this conversation of like why now and in June. And so as we continue to explore ways to increase enrollment, including the sunsetting of the dual assignment resolution, what other information do you all have, and what will be helpful as we begin this conversation and community engagement strategy?
How can I help?
Yeah, I have some ideas. If unless anybody wants to go first, they're just mostly comments. I think you answered one of them. One of them was, why are we doing this now and not closer to 2029? And I think I understand that there's an urgency around it because of the incoming rising ninth graders are really low, and we need to boost that number.
Point out, I know that we may have talked numbers, but the enrollment at Jefferson right now is 449 students.
Right, overall. Yeah. If anybody's gone by the field, though, just south of the school, there's some great visual, what do I want to do when I grow up kind of thing. It's really cool to see. I was just there the other day walking by on my daily walk. I would encourage, in terms of community engagement, to contact the alumni. And I mean, there's probably people in the room. If you're Black, you probably went to Jefferson. Contact the Alumni Association, especially Richard Hunter, because he is and Lakeitha Elliott. There are some people in the community that love Jefferson and would be happy to help out any way they can. I would encourage also a partnership with the realtors, and I say that kind of very seriously, but this neighborhood has a history of gentrification. It's got, for 6 decades now, and part of that undoing of this community had to do with the realty board. They were party to the displacement of hundreds of Black people. In fact, last week, City Council awarded $8.5 million to displaced residents in Albina. Now, it wasn't everybody, but that was the 26 people that had been displaced, and I was very, very proud of Commissioner Smith in that moment, and the entire council. But encourage partnership with our corporations, our realtors, our banks, to let them know this is a great school. It's where, if you buy a house in the neighborhood, you want to send your students. And I just want to make sure that we get it right. I want to make sure that the engagement goes well, that I have high hopes for the campaign, and I'm really looking forward to it. Anything I can do to help, I'm here to help do that. And I'm hoping anybody that's watching, all 11 people watching, that they're willing to help too, because I think it's going to take more than just one person to get us over the finish line. So let's start talking about what a great school it is, highlight alumni, work with our corporate partners, and get the message out that this is a great school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Director Split?
Well, I know you like to go last.
I don't like to go, but yeah.
So I feel like this is what I'm here for, not just Jefferson specifically, but like this is the kind of thing that really excites me, because I think it's what moves the needle on equity. I moved to, when I bought a house in Woodlawn. It's where my husband and I first lived, and had we not immediately realized having an hour-plus commute from Salem for my husband was not going to work with having children, but we moved right by Woodlawn School. It was our intention to go to school there. And that's when I leaned in on PPS. Like when I was like, my kids are going to go to Woodlawn, my kids are going to go to Jefferson. This is like my future. And then of course my husband was coming home with like vein popping because the traffic was so bad, and we had like a 4-month-old, and we were like, we have to move southwest. So I'm like, I just want you to know that this was like my neighborhood, and like I have a lot of like connection, and really feel strongly that we have to make changes that are going to rock the boat and that are going to upset particularly white affluent parents. And I'm here for making those choices and dealing with the ramifications, and it's not just going to be about this school. So I just kind of want to like name that and say it's going to be tough, and we're going to hear a lot from people that are saying, no way, this is going to affect my child in a way that I'm not comfortable with, and I'm going to be here every step of the way to say, get uncomfortable. Like, this is equity. If you have a Black Lives Matter sign in your front yard or ever had one, then you're going to have to make this switch with us. So I'm just going to kind of name that and like set that right to begin with. I also feel like I'm going to say a bunch here, and if anything lands wrong, please let me know afterwards. I want to just name that sometimes talking as an affluent white woman myself, I might not come across how I'm meaning to. So a couple of things on my mind. In addition to like not letting affluent parents stop us from doing this, I want to name that we've heard about some quick fixes that could be done now. Those of us that went and heard from students at the student summit that JJ organized, there were a couple of Jefferson students that talked about lunch being too short, the lunch lines being a problem, the food being a problem. There's a situation that might require an exterminator this summer. Like, let's get that stuff tight this summer while we can, so that those stories aren't the ones that we're hearing as school board members when we hear from students, because those students are going to talk to their younger siblings and their cousins and their friends, and that's what they're going to hear. So I think listening to students and making quick fixes, I think might be an interesting first approach. It's going to be really hard asking people to come for construction. So I also was just thinking in my mind about like, well, how could we do it in a way where like we acknowledge that and consider like maybe a tiered approach. For example, like I said, we were in Woodlawn, and I just remember being like, you want my kids to go to Roosevelt? Like, that's really, really far away. Like, maybe like a 40-minute bus ride or something. It just didn't make any sense. So I think maybe considering starting with like a catchment area that actually like it's extremely convenient to go to Jefferson might be interesting to think about, because it's very inconvenient to go to McDaniel, Roosevelt, or Grant if you're like living pretty close to Jefferson. So I'll just put an openness to not necessarily do something all the way, figuring out a way that we can try to balance like preferability, that's not probably a word, with kind of the desire over the long haul to make the big change. I've heard this idea in emails, but I'm not sure if it's actually happening or on the radar, but my understanding is either there should be, according to my emails, or there is a process by which Black students anywhere in Port PPS can request to go to Jefferson. Is that right? And if not, could we also consider, okay, cool. Consider, and my understand, and then maybe even from outside the district, because I think there's probably plenty, okay, perfect. So I think we should take advantage of that, and you know, the marketing approach that we come up with, I'd love for it to consider, because I feel like when I think about, like I know Lakita too, and like the way that woman feels about her school and how it's wrapped up in her identity as a Black Portlander, I think is just so powerful. So I just, from my limited perspective, that seems worth considering how we can also reach out to those folks. On the public engagement strategy, I'd recommend either public meetings or somebody from the district coming to each elementary school and each middle school that's in the dual assignment area. I also heard from the Irvington PTA, who are really forward-thinking. Whenever I talk to them, they have a lot of really interesting things to say. Like, they've been like, should we have 2 under-enrolled elementary schools right next door to each other? Maybe not, like that kind of stuff, which I really feel like you don't hear from everybody. And they wrote to just let me know, and I think this is right, that there are a lot of under-enrolled or like unequally enrolled middle schools and elementary schools in that area. And while we're having this conversation, maybe be open-minded about that dynamic while we're having these conversations with people about the Jefferson change, hearing and being open to ideas on other schools in the area. Finally, the idea that I have that I've thought about since literally my children were not even born yet, and I lived in Woodlawn and thought that they would be going to Jefferson someday, is how do you get those educators that have been teaching for 20 years and are and like you look at like the teacher tenure currently at Jefferson, it's lower than it is for other comprehensive schools, right? So how do we flip that? How do we get some of those tenured teachers to come over? And they'll become, and so I think really like, I hope Angela hears this, but I think like PAT, the Portland Association of Teachers, talk about equity, and like I really think working with them to come up with a plan or like an idea or something together to figure out how we get diverse teachers would be amazing, but any teachers that are excellent and experienced, and how do we get them to move to Jefferson and be part of this sea change? And I know I just talked a lot, but truly I've been thinking about this for 11 years, and I'm just really excited that we're doing this, and I'm here for it. I want to be supportive, and most of all, I want to listen to you all and also to the community of neighbors around that area, and also to Black Portlanders who really value and treasure Jefferson. And I will have my own ideas, but will also be happy to sit on the bench and not use those ideas when they're not what the community wants.
Thank you.
Thank you. I share Director Splitt's enthusiasm. So, I just want to highlight a couple things. It's not really suggestions or ideas, but maybe just for us. It is an equity issue. I mean, we need to make sure that our students at Jefferson are getting a full, comprehensive, and all the rich opportunities that every other high school gets. That is the right thing to do. The other thing I also want to be wary about is, I know you mentioned tiered system, but that does bring a little concern, because what we do at Jefferson is also going to impact other high schools as well in terms of their enrollment and also the changes that happen. It's better just do one change, right? Instead of having some families have to go through 2 changes. These are, again, lessons learned during the SEGC process. We want to make sure that we always take into account the fact that impact spreads like a wave in a pond, right? It goes to, hits other schools, other families too. So doing this once, doing it right, is what I would be pushing for, and soon. So thank you for putting this forward before us, and I like it.
So I'm to start with a quick question. It wasn't clear to me on the timing of when you're thinking about the switch, because we have this, even with a compressed timeline, there seemed to be a gap between 2026 and 2029 of like when it would be implemented. And I know this, it's just it's not for certain, but like, are you thinking about doing it now? When I say now, like after the engagement process, like in the next year, versus, because originally when the amendment was offered is like, and of course so much has happened since then, but it was like, and we need to do it before the new high school opens, and that was when it was going to open earlier. So I'm curious because.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. As I've said in many other spaces, I think anytime we're talking about boundaries, enrollment, or even school closures, it's a community conversation. And so we really want to spend the summer and the fall getting into spaces and talking about the impacts, movement, timeline, and potential unintended consequences. My hope is that we bring before the board some recommendations, and that recommendation will either be to begin the transition of one grade to start accessing Jefferson in the 26-27 year. It could be 27-28. I mean, obviously, it's something that the board would need to approve and take action on, but we want to bring a recommendation that really continues to make some movement in the enrollment at Jefferson. So we'll be able to see the results of the enrollment campaign, and we know, as of now, the 80-something students that are confirmed to attend. We also have a rising 8th grade class, current 7th graders for another couple of days, who, if there's an opportunity to get as many of those students into Jefferson, we want to take that. But it's a community conversation, and we want to go at the speed that's appropriate so that, we're being thoughtful in our approach and with urgency, I think, with the numbers.
Great, thanks, that's helpful. So I'm just going to speak as a former PPS student who went to Washington. I will just start by saying Jefferson is resilient because I'm thinking back in this late 70s and 80s when enrollment across the district was dropping, and I went to one of those high schools that like students weren't choosing to go to, although there wasn't dual enrollment, and just what happens when enrollment drops, it then spreads, like the word spreads amongst parents. You have fewer programs, and it's hard to reverse, but I will say Jefferson, so when I first got on the board in 2000, they just gone through reconstitution, which, if people don't know what that is, it's basically replacing the entire staff. This was part of the federal thing, the entire staff. So that happened to Humboldt and Jefferson. So imagine that, your entire staff switched out. The students stayed. And then through No Child Left Behind, they had adequate yearly progress. And if you weren't making adequate yearly progress, the federal government said, I forget, like in year 2, you had to open up transfers to anywhere else, and you had to provide transportation. And like it got escalating worse and worse, and which is why eventually we split the schools, because it basically started the clock again. And then fortunately the whole thing went away. But every student at Jefferson has chosen Jefferson, which I think is a testament to the school. So I think we should hold on, they're resilient. And I think we should tap the alums, because I think they're the most powerful force. And I think Lorenzo T. Poe, Marshall Haskins. I mean, we have people in this district who, will bleed for Jeff. So I think we should, marshal them as a resource. I have it a little less, I had a different reaction about the athletics fields. It was like, that's interesting. And then I thought, well, God, Cleveland would die for that, right? I'm pointing at Cleveland, just to get something going. And I guess I would say, I think it should be considered. And also, because here's what I would say, this is why I started with asking about the timing, because it's very different to ask students to be like, hey, we're gonna take away dual assignment and we're gonna send you a brand new school, versus we're taking away dual assignment and instead of having the option to go to a new school, you're gonna go to the one school that hasn't been redone. And I just think it's a harder sell. And so I do think athletics and music and dance are things that are selling points. And just refreshing and asking students what it is that would make the experience better. Before we opened the Jefferson Field, when we redid it in that beautiful blue, the one thing the students said they wanted for the grand opening, all these other schools had we want fireworks and the helicopter bringing the football in. They said, we want the barbed wire taken around the top of the fence. Margaret, you were there. That's the one thing they want. We're the only school that has barbed wire encircling us in. So I would ask the students what would make things different. And again, it's not all about athletics. It could be one thing to give students hey, you're gonna go here and we've got this amazing dance program, we've got great athletics, we've got CTE. I mean, the relationship with the middle college with PCC. I mean, I think it's a sell to the middle schoolers. And one thing that PPS has changed in the last 10 years is we started middle school athletics. And I'll tell you what happened in Franklin and Cleveland neighborhoods is previously you had informal rec leagues where the parents could pay for a coach and get reserved gym time. West Sylvan, they had 6 teams of 6th grade boys playing basketball, and Hosford, where my kids had, they had one team. And then when we got middle school athletics, where the district paid for it, all of a sudden, if you went to, say, Mount Tabor Middle School, you were playing on the Franklin middle school team. So it gave this sense of hey, we're on our way to this high school. It really connected our students, our middle school students who were involved in athletics. And middle school athletics isn't necessarily competitive. It's there's a lot of recreational, so it gave a lot of students an opportunity to get connected into their cluster. And I think there's an opportunity to do this here now, but if it's hey, you could go play for the Grant team, middle school rising team, or we get you in the Jeff team, you create friendships, and again, not just athletics, but I think doing this with music programs, I think gets kids in cohorts of hey, we're all going together. That's what I did when I went to Washington. It was a lot of my kids in my neighborhood decided we're getting out of Washington because that's a school in decline. But when you create a cohort, then you're all in it together. So I think about how we create cohorts of middle school students who see their future and that there's opportunity and they don't have to go to the other schools to get it. And then we have Return to Albina already, which is a part of our policy that if you can establish it. It hasn't, I don't think, been well, I don't want to say how I don't know how it's been marketed, but we haven't had a lot of students utilize it. So how do we share that? Because literally that was my first board meeting in 2017 where Lorenzo and Tony and Ronnie all came and said, we want you to do this, and we did it.
So do you you were starting to say you have to prove some connection to having family who's lived in Albina before? Maybe we go to that part, but anyway, sorry.
There is something in policy, we can get it for you, but you can. And then my last thing, and this is just the release valve for boys that didn't want to go to Washington was going to Benson. And this is a hard conversation as well, because Benson is beautiful. There needs to be thought about how Benson impacts it, because even if you change the no dual enrollment, where there's not dual enrollment anymore, there still is hundreds of seats at a pretty amazing high school, and obviously we want that to be an opportunity for students across the district, but it will just be a factor, and that needs to be considered among all this. CTE is for some students. If it is, like, Benson's a great place to go, we got to make Jefferson a great place to go as well. So that's just.
So I just wanted to comment on two comments that I heard about the idea of Jefferson, when the ribbon has been cut and the doors open and it's fully restored, having then the boundaries be in a way in which students are like returning and invited in. I think the concern, right, and this is what I ask you all to hold on, and maybe not for today's discussion, but as we have these conversations, I think what I ask you all to hold on to is that right now the rising senior class is 133, and that's the largest class, right? So there's 86 rising ninth graders. The fear is that that number continues to shrink, because what families also want access to is not just the high quality academics, but they may want to access the band class, right? They may want their student to be able to access an advanced placement or another classroom that meets their needs. And if there aren't enough students to then have that class, right? And even the sports and the activities in which some of you remember and are fond of, you know, could the numbers be so low that there's trouble fielding a team, or even having two teams where there's like a JV and varsity? And so as we have these conversations in community and we make our way, I think that's one of the probably biggest and hardest conversations that as a board you'll be leaning in with us on is, do we wait until the school is brand new and ready to open? And do we risk that Jefferson maybe being 200 students or worse, even lower? Or do we begin to make some adjustments and shifts now so that we protect our high school, right? And then the other thing is, and I know that Jefferson, School of Champions, right, and have produced a lot of legacy. And I want to call on all of the alumni and folks in the Black community who has attended Jefferson, who celebrates Jefferson. And I also want to be clear that it's a Portland Public School high school, and I need all of us, whether we've been a part of it, whether we're attached to it, whether we had a small experience with it, to be champions of Jefferson. And the way that we take that action and do that is by making sure that we restore enrollment as fast as we can. I mean, it's urgency, and I just wanted to put that out there. So, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the preference policy, there's a housing preference policy, City of Portland, and the return to Albina. You have to look at the intersection of race and housing ownership, cost of home ownership in Albina. All of these contribute to people. And also, there's two things you never want to segregate and concentrate, and poverty is one of them, and race is another one. So we don't want a segregated school necessarily. We want all of our schools to be able to serve all of the kids in the district in their neighborhood. It does all of our kids a disservice when we have segregated spaces. Anyway. Thank you. I think I've changed my mind about, I had that question about the timing and why would you recruit people to an empty building, but I think I understand the urgency in being able to, we're doing a disservice to the kids that are still there if we don't offer high quality, rigorous classes as soon as possible. So I appreciate the clarification.
And if I may, I visited Jefferson. I've walked the building with Principal Shelton on many occasions. There is now high quality, rigorous instruction going on there.
Yes.
What we want to ensure is that there is equitable programming and all the variety of courses and offerings that other high schoolers experience. The Jefferson High School students can also experience that, which gets incredibly hard when the school is so small.
Yes.
So I have a question. I'm wondering, have we done any research about whether the middle college like what people's perception of that is. So I find a fair number of parents are like, hey, we want AP or IB, but less understanding of like what the middle college or what dual credit is. And I'm wondering what we know about that with people like, hey, I want to go to an AP school, or I want to go to a school that has IB, and Jeff doesn't, it's one of the few that doesn't have that. And so I wonder if this is like, and Candace, this is maybe for you, like, you know, is it, do you know, what do people think about it? What do they know about it? Do they know it's incredible, like you can graduate with the high school diploma and, you know, essentially associate's degree? So to me, that seems like an opportunity, like, but maybe we might need, I don't know enough about how we've sold it in the past, what people think about it, and whether that is a reason why maybe people like, I want to go to this other high school because my kid can get AP credit, which I know, you know, colleges across the country accept. So
I think we actually have the person that started that program at Jefferson High School. So you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So I think that when, back in 2011, when we looked at high school system redesign, part of the conversation at that time was the role that Jefferson would play in the high school system. It's also the time when we were looking at, you know, what was going to happen with the Marshall campus. So the decision at the time was to take programs that were at Jefferson and take them to scale. And the partnership at PCC had been a long-standing one, and has been a long-standing, well over 30 years. The partnership with PCC has been present at Jefferson, and dual credit in some form. So what we said at that time was that we were going to make the entire school middle college. It was the T-shirts at the time read, "Go to Jeff, go to college" was one of them, along with, you know, I Chose Jeff was another really significant campaign that we had at the time. So I think that what has changed, and Director remembers the point that you're surfacing, is probably in the last decade across the country and in Portland, the notion of what is dual credit and what does that mean for students has expanded. And what we see, not that dual credit opportunities have expanded not only at Jefferson, but at other high schools across the system. We see it at Franklin, Grant, Lincoln, for example, offer dual credit courses as well. And so I think the pieces of the middle college, the unique placement of Jefferson across the street from PCC, open up the catalog of PCC to families. And so that's slightly different in that way, but I would say the understanding of the role of dual credit and the transferable credit has expanded over time. We know that, I think, early, you know, I had the pleasure of serving as an administrator at Jefferson for 13 years, and as the principal for almost a decade during the time from high school redesign to just recently. And what I would say is that the understanding of what happens with dual credit has become much more broadly understood, not only at Jefferson, but also at other schools. And the way that it has been measured is through the middle college diploma. And that was part of the work that we really built, was to say that in order to earn a middle college diploma, you had to complete at least 12 college credits. When we first started, the number of students that completed a middle college was less than 50% of the seniors. And I think, you know, we'd have to ask Principal Shelton where it is now, but it is well over 90% of the students complete at least 12 college credits prior to graduating. And so I think that understanding what that looks like and how that plays out over time has changed. So I think that, is it well understood by all? It is the names, International Baccalaureate and Advanced Placement, have higher name recognition. I would believe that is true. We see an increased number of dual credit courses being offered not only at Jefferson but across the system. And we also see a higher number of students of color completing college level coursework in dual credit courses than IB or AP across the system and at Jefferson.
I appreciate that. What is the value, like, is it understood outside of the community what the value of that dual credit the middle college designation is compared to IB or AP?
I think, you know,
Like
there
at a college, let's say in the Midwest or on the East Coast.
I think that, you know, that that what that looks like from a receiving college and institution, IB, AP, and dual credit, depending within the state of Oregon, a transfer module and that understanding of what those credits are, whether they're coming from PCC or going into U of O or another one of the schools in the Oregon university system, is much more seamless. Going outside of the state and what does that look like, that is the same as that you'll experience with AP and IB. And if you go from a public institution to private institution, there's differences in that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So as we conclude, I appreciate the time and to being in this discussion, and we look forward to bringing back maybe as discussion items to continue the conversation and update in our engagement. I want to thank the team, and then also behind the scenes who has really helped really uplift the work and shine a light has been Miss Brennan, and I just appreciate that she decided on her big birthday today to stay, even though she wasn't presenting, and to be a part of the conversations because she is so invested and connected to making sure that we fully restore Jefferson to a comprehensive high school. So, happy birthday. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Demos, I say.
All right, our final informational topic this evening is the overview of the high school science instructional resource recommendations. I know, time.
It's so late, but we're really energized right now after that. So we're here for you.
Okay, I think we're gonna.
I think we introduce you all. I think we're, just,
Dr. Armstrong,
we're so
you wanna
busy
introduce?
watching the room clear out.
Just
like,
go.
Okay.
We're short in time. Go.
Sorry.
Should I start? Is she introducing
Okay. Okay. So yes. Well, Oregon requires all public districts to select and adopt high-quality research-based materials for instruction, and we have engaged in this work during this year to comply with state requirements, and our goal is to complete the adoption process once the board has approved the purchase of the new curriculum. Our Chief Academic Officer, Christina Howard, will begin the presentation, and then, of course, we have Senior Director Histich.
Great, thank you. Good evening, board directors. My name is Christina Howard, and I am the Chief Academic Officer, and I just want to introduce Dr. Philippe Histich, and he will be able to share the remaining presentation for tonight.
Good evening, board directors, Chair Wong, Vice Chair DePass, Dr. Armstrong. My name is Philippe Histich. I'm the Senior Director for High School Academics. My colleague, Noelle Gorbet, our Assistant Director for Math and Science, is not here this evening, but she deserves all the credit for leading the high school science adoption that you will hear about this evening. I will share information about the science adoption background, the selection process, the recommendation, and our professional development plan. I will try to move quickly through this presentation, but please don't hesitate to stop me. As you know, and as Dr. Armstrong reiterated, Oregon requires school districts to adopt high-quality, research-based instructional materials. PPS is aligning with this requirement for science for the 2024-2031 cycle. The adoption also aligns with the board priorities of eliminating graduation and post-secondary readiness gaps. Adopting high-quality instructional materials allows teachers to focus their energy on strong instruction instead of spending most of their time creating materials Good instructional resources allow teachers to spend time differentiating and engaging students. High-quality instructional materials also foster consistent, rigorous, and culturally relevant instruction across the school district. At the same time, we know that textbooks alone don't teach students. How our educators use the materials really matters. For us in PPS, high-quality instructional materials are the baseline for equity. They support new and veteran teachers, define grade-level expectations, and anchor professional conversations about rigor and instructional quality. They ensure that every student in every classroom, in every school, at every grade level has access to high-quality, research-based instructional materials. Next, I'll speak briefly about the selection process and the implementation plan. You can see in this timeline, it's spring of 2025. So we're wrapping up the selection process and about to jump into the implementation process. In the fall, this past fall, we established our advisory committee. The team included central office staff, high school administrators, science teachers from every school, every comprehensive school and option school. They reviewed science materials approved by ODE to determine whether or not they were aligned with next generation science standards, Oregon science standards, and determining which of the curricular resources will be field tested in our schools. Field testing occurred in 10 of our high schools across all 3 core science courses, physics, chemistry, and biology. Teachers and students engaged deeply with these materials in our classrooms and provided very valuable feedback. In making the final selection, we prioritized teacher and student feedback and coherence across the science courses, standards alignment, and support for equitable access to rigorous instruction. HMH Science Dimensions emerged as the best fit based on these criteria. Among other things, this curriculum is aligned with next generation standards on engineering and real-world phenomena. It promotes rigorous learning through claims, evidence, and reasoning structure, and it provides strong support for problem solving and active student engagement. In this slide, you can see the cost breakdown for this curriculum. The cost includes class sets of textbooks and purchase of digital access to instructional resources and platform for teachers and students. We will support the implementation of this curriculum through a robust PD plan, which will include in-person sessions for our teachers and administrators, monthly remote learning opportunities, professional learning time during PLCs, and asynchronous resources. Our instructional coaches will be engaged in this professional development, and we will also provide ongoing support from our Office of Teaching and Learning. Finally, this adoption will help us ensure that all PPS high school students have access to coherent, challenging, and engaging science resources and instruction. We're confident that this investment supports both our teachers and our strategic commitment to equity and excellence. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
I have a couple of, I'm curious what phenomena-based means.
I'm a social studies and a language arts
Me too.
person, so I hesitate to delve.
Okay.
I can tell you all about it, but after the meeting maybe.
Okay, it's a long answer, not
Yeah.
a short one. Okay, sorry. And then the 2.4 million to cover all that new, that's roughly, I rounded to 800,000 for my math. Does that include like all of the sort of PD and training and all of that, or just the like actual materials?
Just materials.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The PD is built into our
budgets, but I think you're highlighting the reality that we can use bond money for curricular resources, but not for professional development. Yeah. And just to, I think, and Chair Wong, you can probably speak to this better than I can, but the idea is that we're not teaching science through discrete definitions and concepts, but are studying natural phenomena and bringing those to life in our classrooms to develop scientific understanding.
Yeah, I can talk a lot. And I won't be long because I know we're getting late, so I'm going to be really quick. It's a little bit exciting, very exciting. Thank you for all the work put into this. But it's also a little heartbreaking because I was one of the teachers that piloted the previous curriculum for
patterns.
Yeah, patterns for physics and biology. So thank you for deleting all my work. What was I going to say? The only comment I have is about it's actually not about the district, but actually an ask for more information later. Oregon law requires us to update in our curriculum every 7 years. I am not a big fan of a one-size-fit-all law mentality, whatever, because as you know, some curriculum needs to be replaced like 3 years in. We know it's awful. Some curriculum could probably go for 15 years, right? And as you know, changing curriculum is very expensive. It would be nice, again, this is for later down the line, to, if there's any way we can kind of keep track of, for example, there are some things that maybe could have gone longer, maybe some things could have gone shorter, but just kind of the onus that this is being placed on the district in terms of how not ideally it's fitting with really our student needs, right? And so that's kind of my future ask. I don't want to talk about that today. So thank you for all your hard work. Any other questions before we move on? Thank you.
Thank you.
Art. Thank you. All right. First off, we have, hold on, sorry. Excuse me while I pull this up. Director Brim Edwards, who is also Commissioner Brim Edwards, has requested that we pull 2 contracts off the consent agenda for a separate consideration, since both of those are with Multnomah County. So we will vote on those first. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7129, expenditure contracts that exceed $150,000 for delegation of authority?
So moved.
Second.
Director Split moves and Director DePass seconds. The adoption of Resolution 7129. Board discussion.
I think I need to state the nature of my conflict. Both of them are intergovernmental agreements with a body that I serve on.
Any public comment?
No.
All right, the board will now vote on Resolution 7129, expenditure contracts that exceed $150,000 for delegation of authority. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? All right, Resolution 7129.
Sorry, I'm abstaining.
Oh, sorry, thank you, my bad. Resolution 7129 passes with a vote of 6-0 with 1 abstention. Did I misspeak that? We have another one, right? Yeah, we have another one. 7129. Oh no, 7129 is both of them,
It's
right?
both the Sun and
The Sun and the
IGA.
IGA.
I actually asked for another one to be
Separate?
separated out.
Yeah, it's listed twice here.
7124.
7124? Okay.
That's what she wants.
All right.
7124 is separate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7124, expenditure contracts that exceed $150,000 for delegation of authority?
Chair Wong, I believe that one's part of the consent agenda.
That's what we're saying.
The 7124, the original expenditure contracts resolution is included in the consent agenda still.
Okay,
Oh,
I see.
okay.
So we had to pull that.
So we have to pull it from and then.
Okay, so resolution 7124.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Let me clarify. 7124 is the one that Director Brim Edwards wants to vote on separately. So the rest of the
I just have a question that.
Okay. So it can stay on the consent agenda. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
So now that I've thoroughly confused you, the consent agenda resolutions are 7123
Yes.
through 7128, including 7124. I apologize. I thought
Okay.
your request was to pull
Yeah,
it
in the
separately.
agenda, the 7124 was never pulled out because in
Right.
7129 includes both the contracts that involve Multnomah County.
Yes.
That's Sun School and the IGA. Okay.
And that was what you were requested to be voted on separately. All right, so we can now refer to this as a consent agenda. We'll now move to vote on the consent agenda. If there's any items you would like to pull, board members, if there's any items you'd like to pull for a separate vote, please indicate that now. Ms. Bradshaw, is there any changes to consent agenda?
None that weren't just noted.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Director DePass moves, Director Sullivan seconds the adoption of the consent agenda. Discussion.
So this was on the agenda, I think about a month ago, and it was taken off. And I'd asked a question at the time about why the presenting, or the person who was their authorized signer, responsible administrator, had changed. And because I asked that question, I just wanted to have the answer, and I know. Are you going to answer that?
No, Christine, excuse me.
Okay.
Chief Howard.
I wasn't sure who I should be looking at.
Chief Howard is here.
Chief.
I had some other questions that were also answered separately, so thank you.
So I am now the responsible contract manager on our contract with Lewis and Clark. And that is because a member of the dissertation review team for the prior contract manager, there was a potential situation there, so that we concluded that it did not necessarily need to be changed about who the responsible manager was. But we wanted to mitigate any potential concerns about the appearance of a conflict, so we made the change. That was my answer to you earlier.
All right. The board will now vote on resolution 7123 through 7128. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? Consent agenda is amended is approved by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Thank you for staying here all tonight. I know we have a future topics segment on the agenda, but I ask that board members can just call me and talk to me directly about that.
Oh, then.
I also want to note that without hopefully not jinxing it, but in her entire 3 terms on the board, has never missed a single board meeting, and we have 1 more to go, so don't screw it up.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Through thick and thin. Yeah.